the Warriors have somehow won this game. They finish on a run to close this out. They trail by 11. After leading by 18, they trail by 11. But they close it out on a 16-2 run. A 4-game winning streak. And the first 4 games of the homestand go to Golden State.
And we welcome in with that to a special New Year's Eve edition of Warriors This Week here on 95.7 The Game. And the Warriors suddenly are hot. 4 consecutive wins, as you hear Tim Roy lay out there. 4-0 with 4 still to come on this 8-game homestand. They're doing it without Steph Curry and without Andrew Wiggins, and they're getting contributions from a lot of different people. We welcome you inside. John Dickinson and Whitey Gleason here on 95.7 The Game. Whitey, good to be with you, my man, for the first time in a couple of weeks. Happy holidays. Hope you had a wonderful Christmas. And the New Year sneaking up on us here in just about, 14 hours.
Yeah, great to be with you again, JD. And I remember a number of times last season, many times last season, being on with you on Warriors This Week and talking about how the season was such a roller coaster ride last year. Well, that was nothing compared to this year so far. I mean, just take last night's game. But the Warriors this week, to your point, they have turned this season back right side up. And I think the most encouraging thing is the way they're doing it. As you mentioned, the bench playing well, and they've been grinding out some very gritty wins. They've been winning with defense in the fourth quarter, which, hey, that's something good teams do, as they ratchet up the defense in the fourth quarter. And really encouraging is the fact that the Warriors now, since Steph dislocated his shoulder or subluxated his shoulder, they're 5-3 since he got hurt. And for the whole season now, without Steph, the Warriors are 5-6. So once again, who knows where this coaster's going next? But right now, they're definitely on the upswing and things looking a lot brighter. And it's just been such a fun and entertaining week of basketball, JD.
Yeah, and look, the theme of the week for me, I think, and you touched on it a little bit, is the fact that there have been stretches in some of these games where the Warriors have shot the basketball well and been hot, and Jordan Poole goes for 41 last night. Klay Thompson looked refreshed after a few days off, and he ends up with 31. They get up 41-25 at the end of the first quarter, but the second and third quarters were ugly. No defense for the Warriors, outscored 71-47. But then they keep coming and keep fighting, and I think they did that in the Charlotte game. After that game got close, they were able to out-execute and get some big stops against Utah at times where it looked like that game was potentially going to go the other way. And then last night, 30-16 in the fourth quarter, but 16-2 over the final 5 minutes and 10 seconds. And I kind of, I didn't fully have that one chalked up as an L, but I thought, all right, three wins in the bank, get back after it in the new year. Unfortunately, it would have been a game under 500, but the Warriors said, they're able to put the clamps down a little bit against some of these teams this week, and especially down the stretch last night with the game against the Blazers. And a lot of that has been Dante DiVincenzo, but a lot of it has also been Jonathan Kuminga, who's really emerging as somewhat of a defensive stopper. Kuminga did not play well last night in the first three quarters. He was in foul trouble. I thought when Steve Kerr put him back into the game early in the fourth quarter with 5 fouls, I made a mental note. All right, let's see how long he lasts, was the mental note. And given the way that the game had gone, but he was able to play to the finish, not foul out, and make an impact in the game defensively. Those are the kinds of things that we have not seen from a lot of the Warrior young players. Usually when a game does not go well, it's just a bad game. And I was ready to kind of chalk up, all right, bad game for Kuminga. Those happen, on to the next. But the Warriors able to flip it in the final 5 minutes. And I think flip even a bad game into a pretty good one for a young player like Jonathan Kuminga.
Yeah, I was thinking last night, of course, we were all thinking about GP2 and how much the Warriors really miss what he gave them last year. Of course, even if they'd kept him, they wouldn't be getting that from him this year because he's hurt. But still, the way he played last year, especially defensively, was phenomenal. Well, last year it seemed to me that the Warriors were able to finally compensate for what they lost offensively when Durant left. It took two players to do that. And this is, it's not an exact comp, but you had Poole and Wiggins, and in the playoffs, they kind of gave you a lot of the things offensively that you had gotten from Durant. And my point is, I think right now they're getting some of the things they got defensively from Peyton last year from two guys, DiVincenzo and Kuminga. Again, I'm not saying, Peyton's as good as those two guys combined, but defensively, Kuminga guarding the full 94 feet, DiVincenzo, the way he defended Dame Lillard last night with a big steal. How about that? Two of the wins this week, the big wins, one last night and the one over Charlotte, they were punctuated by massive steals, just flat out taking the ball away at the end of the game. And JD, here's some numbers, fourth quarter numbers, the last two games for the Warriors defensively. And some of this is just poor shooting and poor offensive execution by the opposition, but a lot of it is Warrior defense. Real quickly, last two games, Utah and Portland, fourth quarter, 11 for 45. That's 24% field goal shooting. Three-point shooting, fourth quarter against the Warriors last two games, 3 for 32 combined. That's 9%. And maybe the most significant, we know that the Warriors this year, they've been sending other teams to the foul line, a parade to the foul line, while they have not been getting to the line. But the last two games in the fourth quarter combined, opposition 4 for 8 from the foul line. Last night, Portland did not get to the line in the fourth quarter, and the Warriors 11 for 13. So again, some real positive signs that the Warriors, for all their struggles, they're finding ways to play their best basketball in meaningful games in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and that flipped what had really changed in the middle two quarters of that game, with Portland getting to the free throw line a ton, and the Warriors barely getting to the free throw line at all, and the Warriors were able to turn the tables on them in that one. And look, a couple of these games, including last night, the Warriors did hit 17 threes, which is always going to be beneficial. They made 18 in the game going back against the Grizzlies, but it hasn't all been pretty, and I think we talked about it when Alan was sitting in for you on the Christmas edition of the show, just the fact that while a lot of these games on this homestand for the Warriors projected to be winnable, the reality of the situation was you could not expect them to win any games without Stephen Curry. And then it looked as if Wiggins was going to come back, but he still has not been able to return, cleared from the adductor, but then falling ill. It sounds like Wiggins could be back as early now as Monday. So good news on that front. But while you could make the case that the Warriors, if they played well, could win any of these games, it was going to be difficult, and they were going to have to work, and there was going to have to be an intensity, I think, to them in all of these games, because they could get beat by any of these teams. And I think really going back even to the Memphis game, and I know that's a rivalry game, even though the Warriors may not want to call it a rivalry with all of the noise that Memphis has talked here over the last couple of years. But I think Draymond Green and Klay Thompson specifically, as the two championship core veterans that are still playing and available, I feel like they've set the tone, Whitey, throughout this whole homestand and beginning with Memphis, that the level of play and the level of competitiveness needed to be ramped up significantly from what it had been at any point really this season. And the Warriors have done that, and it's allowed them to come back in some of these games where at different points it's looked relatively bleak.
Klay looked great last night, and I'm with you on Draymond. Yesterday, some people got upset at me. We were talking about who needs to be better in sports in 2023, and I said Draymond. And I know he's playing really well. My point was, the punch and some of the games, even the Pacer game where he got teed up and thrown out, where it appeared to some that maybe he checked out. And we know there have been games where it looks like, wow, Draymond's just disengaged. They can't have that right now. As short-handed as they are, he can't do that, and he hasn't done that. And he's been playing hurt with a sore toe. So you're right; he's been leading that charge and establishing the foundation of intensity. I also think it's a huge season for Dante DiVincenzo, and he's playing so well in so many ways. He was with the Bucks, as we know, and he was a really good player. And the Bucks essentially got to a point after DiVincenzo got hurt. They essentially decided, we like you, but we like Grayson Allen more. So they moved on from him, and he went to Sacramento last year. Sacramento, a team that really has been desperately trying to improve their defense, and they had DiVincenzo and ultimately decided, I mean, we like you, but not enough to really make any effort to keep you. So DiVincenzo comes to the Warriors with a lot to prove and also in a great situation for him where he's playing in a system that he can really fit into and contribute a lot to. And after kind of a slow start where he got hurt, he's been in some ways great. I mean, you can't look at his numbers and say, he's not averaging 30 points a game, but just the steal alone last night on Dame Lillard and the fact that he's been doing so many good things, rebounding the ball, getting them into their offense, and he's so versatile. It's been a huge year for him, and he's been a huge part of the success this week.
Yeah, and they've needed it.
Yeah.
They've needed it, and others have stepped in to fill the void left by not only Andrew Wiggins, but obviously Steph Curry. Jordan Poole, it's been up and down with the turnovers.
Yeah.
It's been up and down with the efficiency. But for him to have 6 turnovers in the first half, cut that down to 1 in the second half, and go for 41, he's been on this heater, really, where even the bad games are still 25 to 30-point games. And, I've made the point this week that the Warriors really, they need that point production, even if it's not going to be efficient. You want it to be efficient, but his ability to just get his numbers game in, game out, to fill that block that's lost with Steph and Curry out, I think has been key throughout the course of this week. And the other part to this thing is, and we spoke about Kuminga, and maybe less so last night, other than Kuminga's fourth quarter, but in the first 2 games of the homestand against Memphis and Charlotte, the young players collectively were helping this team win, which I think has been extremely unique. It just hasn't happened, right? James Wiseman helps the Warriors in consecutive games get a win. Kuminga helps him get a win. Moody helps him get a win. Patrick Baldwin Jr. helps him get a win the other night against Utah after he, gets in the car and rides up from Santa Cruz. I mean, that would have been unfathomable stuff early on in the season, to think that all of those players would contribute at the level that they did in those first 2 games for the lottery picks and for the game against Utah that Patrick Baldwin Jr. was able to.
People come down our road all the time, which is great, and we love it. That's one of the reasons we're here. It happens all the time. There was a guy who called. I'm not sure I know who it was, so I'm not going to mention names. I think I know, but I'm not positive. Somebody called last time I was on with you a couple weeks ago and said that Lamb and Jerome were trash. Called them maybe two-way trash, but definitely called them trash. So I would invite that person to call back today, because they are not trash. Ty Jerome, I mean, look at the way he played against Charlotte. But I want to go back to what you said about Jordan Poole. It's such a fascinating situation. Steve Kerr talked about this week how Jordan Poole is playing great, but he's still got a couple of levels to get to. One, I think, is defensively, and the other is, as you were discussing, the consistency. Right now, the Warriors are at the point where, even though Poole has some bad turnovers, and he's had the last 2 games really bad turnovers in the last minute of the game, and yet they've overcome them. And you have to, right now, if you're the Warriors, you got to live with that because of what he's given you offensively, and you need it so desperately. So it's just, he's still, to me, he's just kind of mercurial. But right now, you definitely have to take the bad with the good. What is he, second in the NBA in turnovers? Because you don't have anybody else who can spearhead your offense like that. It's just been amazing to see him. What is he doing? He goes through stretches that are like, oh my goodness, is he all right? And then just boom, boom, boom. The Warriors would love for him to become more consistent. But right now, they got to live with the bad to get the good, because they're not winning these games without what Jordan Poole's given them.
And then again, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, Whitey,
all right,
but you look at the layout of this homestand, and I do think with Memphis and Utah and Portland, I think if you were going to break the homestand down into, all right, the toughest 4 games and then maybe the easier of the 4 games, I think the Warriors have played 3 of the 4 most difficult games, at least on paper going into it, for the whole homestand. I mean, I think if you're penciling it, you would have said any combination of Memphis, Portland, Utah, and Phoenix at the very back end. That game's still 10-day Warriors so long on January the 10th. And then the other 4 being Charlotte, Detroit, Orlando, as well as Atlanta, who's really in a bad way right now. Lots of reports coming out with respect to Nate McMillan and Trae Young, and just a franchise really being in a bad way. Trae Young did play last night against the Lakers, although they got beat at home by the Lakers. So the Hawks are a little bit of a mess right now, coming in at 17 and 19. And you start to project forward here with the Warriors at a game over 500 and 4-0 and now 16-2 at home. And you feel like this team has a shot with Wiggins coming back now to get a little bit greedy and continue to push away from 500 even before Steph Curry comes back, which, again, I just go back to a week ago, 6 days ago, when we were doing the show on Christmas and Alan Stiles was sitting in for you. I mean, that would have been unfathomable 6 days ago.
I know. I'm a little reluctant to go down that path of how the future matchups on this road trip look, just because in so many games this year, things have played out totally the opposite of what I expected. But you're right. I mean, you can't help but look at this and look at the reality of it and say, 8-0 is definitely on the board, especially the way the games here. You got, you got Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, Tuesday. So one of the Warriors' biggest issues right now, you'd think, would be back-to-backs and playing a lot of games. And that was one of the surprises last night, that they had the legs that they had. But the way it lays out now, maybe Phoenix is the toughest team they have left, and Phoenix is struggling as well. So 8-0's on the board, but at a time when I think we all said going into this homestand that, you need to go like 6-2 you could live with, but 7-1, 8-0, you may need to do that. And they got a chance right now, JD.
Yeah, and you never know who's going to be in and out of the lineup, and the Warriors could have other injuries and the like. But as you start to lay things out here moving forward into 2023, and again, the Warriors are not quite there yet, but improving to 19 and 18 with the win last night. I mean, that's good enough to get them back up to ninth in the West, but basically tied for 8th, a game out of 7th. They're only a game and a half out of 6th. And really, Dallas and Sacramento are tied for 5th. So you're basically a game and a half now out of 5th in the Western Conference. So you've got a lot of things really starting to take shape in the West. And Phoenix is going to be without Devin Booker for the next month. And again, if the Warriors somehow lose 2 of the next 3 or 3 of the next 4 or something like that, nothing should be considered off the table without Steph Curry. But if they can continue to win, let's say 3 of the next 4 or all 4, they're going to be feeling really good. That may be good enough to put them in 6th on at the end of the homestand, which would be pretty incredible.
Yeah, they're only 5 games out of the top spot right now. Remarkably, 5 games out. Now, there's 2 ways to look at that as far as, well, what do you do with this roster the rest of the way? And I know they're playing well right now, so we don't need to spend a lot of time on that like we have been, because we've been looking for fixes. But do they need to upgrade, or do you have what it takes now to be a contender? To me, this is the first time all year where I've thought, this looks like maybe it's a solid roster. I still think you need to upgrade for a couple of reasons. It's so muddled right now. If you were able to make a move that really improved your roster, and I don't know what that would be, and I'm not trying to get rid of anybody, but if that move were available, just think what it could do for you. If you're right there with everybody now and you could do something that will improve your roster, I mean, you could end up getting some separation there. I know we're getting ahead of ourselves. There's also other teams like Denver, there are already reports, for what that's worth, that Denver's looking to make a move. So other teams now in the West, they're looking to make moves as well. So it behooves the Warriors, and they will, to look at everything they can do. There's players maybe available, like, Kuzma could be available. Vanderbilt's a player that I think could fit, but again, I don't know. I'm not saying trade this guy or that guy, but it is something to keep an eye on, because not only could the Warriors improve potentially by doing something like that, other teams that they're competing with in the West are going to be looking to do the same thing as well.
All right, he's Whitey Gleason. I'm John Dickinson. 888-957-9570, 888-957-9570. That is the phone number to give us a call or shoot us a text here. It's Warriors This Week, New Year's Eve edition here on 95.7 The Game. Does it feel now as if the Warriors have turned a corner? I know we had Steve Kerr on as I was filling in with Damon and Ratto with Alan Stiles on Thursday. We asked him the question. Alan did. Does it feel like this team has turned a corner? And Coach Kerr said, not quite yet. Got to win on the road, but likes where this team is at right now. Do you believe, Whitey, that the Warriors have turned a corner?
You can certainly see the corner. They're at the corner, right? They're certainly there, and that's a fair point. You have to be able to win on the road if we're going to take you seriously. Because anything we talk about with the Warriors, turning the corner, have they righted their ship? we're talking about can they contend, right? We're not talking about can they make the playoffs. This is a team with high standards. So anything we're talking about in terms of can the Warriors get there, have they figured things out, we're talking about can they win a championship. Well, you have to be able to win on the road as they've proven. So until they can do that, we can't say that. But right now, they're certainly set up to play better on the road. And the more I watch them last night and this week, the more I wonder why they haven't won a few more of these road games. Hopefully they've figured things out with the rotation. Players seem a little more secure in what they're doing and when they're playing. So maybe that translates onto the road. But until they do it, we can't really say. And just real quick, as you know, JD, you look at the schedule, and they got the home games coming up here. But then after that, it's at San Antonio, at Chicago, at Washington, at Boston, at Cleveland. So you finish up this homestand, and you got a road trip that's, there are some winnable games on there, but that's not an easy road trip ahead.
It's not. And at that point, I think that's where you're hoping that you're going to be getting Steph Curry back. There was some other, I thought, pretty good news from Coach Kerr on Thursday in that conversation, saying that Curry had been doing some on-court work, which I think was a little bit of that was something that hadn't been noted as of yet. And I know Steph had said that he hadn't picked up a ball, I guess, right before Christmas there when they were in New York on the TNT broadcast. So that was about 10 days ago. So to go over the span of, let's say, a week from hadn't picked up a ball yet to where Steve Kerr said, yeah, he's doing some court work and has been doing some court work. It sounds like since the Warriors had been home, he's been doing some court work. So I think that's optimistic. I know he's going to be reevaluated officially, formally a week day, and then we'll get a better feel there. But if he could be back close to or at the beginning of that road trip, I think that would give this team another real shot in the arm that they could use to push forward here.
He's probably going to need some shots in the arm here to get through this. You're right. If he's doing on-court work and the shoulder is still bulky, it could be that he's doing, it's total speculation, some one-hand shooting drills with the right hand to keep the stroke groove. Not that he needs help there, but yeah, there could be some of that involved. We had Doc Pandia on this week, as you know, from UCSF, and orthopedic surgeon who understands all this stuff. And he pointed out that there are going to be some questions about Steph and the shoulder until he actually gets out and play, because we're talking about the stabilization of the shoulder and the ligaments. And it's one thing for him to go, yeah, I've exercised it. It feels good. MRI is good, but we won't really know until he gets out there and tests it. So there are going to be some legitimate questions until he can actually play. But yeah, so far so good. And that would be great to have Steph back sooner rather than later.
Well, I think you've made the point that once you pop that shoulder out even a little bit, it gets easier to pop out again. And that's something that would have to be, you'd have to continue to monitor as time moves.
Yeah, depending on the amount of damage done. But you know how the Warriors, we've talked about this with injuries, they don't give you any more information than they absolutely have to, but it sounds like good news there and good news on the Wiggins front. And I got to be honest, Wiggins has been out so long, it's almost like I catch myself, oh yeah, Wiggins is coming back too. So it's remarkable what they're doing this week without two of their starters. And I'll just say this, getting way ahead of ourselves, when those guys come back, you know what we're going to be talking about again, JD, is a very good chance we're going to be talking about, Poole off the bench. Now, if he plays great, fine, but there's a very good chance that becomes a topic again if he goes back to the bench and isn't quite as productive. But we'll worry about that if we have to down the road.
Well, and I don't think it's a crazy thing to wonder about, and it's not only Jordan Poole. I mean, Dante DiVincenzo has played much better with more minutes. I mean, he's had a little bit more freedom to be able to know that he's going to get out there and either put an imprint on the game or make mistakes and still get a chance to put an imprint on the game. I mean, I even think a guy like Kuminga, if look at Kuminga's game last night. If Kuminga has the game that he had last night in the first three quarters, he's not playing down the stretch. And it'd be, if Wiggins is back, right, and Curry's back, like last night would have been one of those games where we look up into the night and we go, Kuminga, he didn't really have it tonight, got in foul trouble, and the Warriors went in another direction. And so, he's going to get fewer opportunities once they get fully healthy. It really impacts a number of different people. It's going to impact Poole. It's going to impact DiVincenzo. It's going to impact Kuminga. I think to a lesser extent, it's going to impact Anthony Lamb. I mean, Ty Jerome's been playing a lot and helping this team. He's probably going to go back to not playing at all or barely playing on a lot of nights unless somebody's out. Moses Moody's probably going to go back to not playing at all, even though he's played a bit part in these last couple of games. The first couple of games on the homestand and helped them a little bit. So it's a fair thing to bring up that when Steph and Wiggins come back, it really does change the calculus again of how the Warriors put together a rotation after they've figured out now how they have to play without those two.
Especially given the fact that Poole has been so much better as a starter than he has coming off the bench. We had Bob Myers. I was in for Steiny last week, 2 weeks ago, and Bob Myers was talking about the roster. And again, this was in the wake of the two games, against the New York team. So things were looking pretty bleak. And we were talking about, what do? Can you get where you need to get to without either bringing someone in or without someone stepping up? And he said, yeah, that's what we're trying to figure out. Well, DiVincenzo has been one of those guys who has stepped up. And so as you mentioned, Kuminga. And if someone, it wasn't that long ago, JD, on this show, I remember we were talking about, maybe Kuminga just isn't a fit for this, the way they play. But if someone hadn't seen the Warriors much and then they came to me and said, what's the deal with Kuminga? What's he doing better? I'd say two things. He's defending at a really high level, and he's guarding people, the full 94 feet when that's required. He had a huge steal at PJ Washington where he just reached in and took the cookies out of his cookie jar with the game on the line. But also, last night, Kuminga, and as you said, wasn't great all night long. He had 6 assists last night. So that's it. Like, clearly he's understanding, I want the ball, I want to score, but also I got to defend. He's doing that, and I got to keep the ball moving. At his worst, he's been a ball stopper. 6 assists for Kuminga last night. It's a great sign, JD.
All right, he's Whitey Gleason. I'm John Dickinson. 888-957-9570. Have the Warriors turned a corner? And can they keep this thing rolling with 4 games to go on the homestand? Now 16-2, getting different contributions from different players. Phone line's open. The Xfinity Mobile text line is open as we're with you until 1 o'clock here on New Year's Eve. It's Warriors This Week on 95.7 The Game.
I bet you folks are glad to be done with your shopping. Hopefully, all your gifts went well. But there's one last store to visit, this time just for yourself. Your chance to get one of the top-rated Samsung, LG, or Sony TVs at a crazy low price. Where? At Video Only's year-end clearance sale. A great way to end the year. If you don't check out these deals at Video Only, you'll be sorry.
Stretch your lashes to new heights with CoverGirl Exhibitionist Stretch and Strengthen Mascara. Up to 60% longer looking lashes. It's an instant lash extension effect. Lift, stretch, and lengthen with a lightweight formula infused with biotin, peptides, and pro-vitamin B5 for strength and protection against breakage. Looking for a lash extension in a bottle? Try CoverGirl Exhibitionist Stretch and Strengthen Mascara for up to 60% longer lashes. From easy, breezy, beautiful CoverGirl.
Join us at Odyssey as we do our one thing, together millions of things for our planet. This holiday season, invest in some LED Christmas lights. They use significantly less energy than regular bulbs. When we each share our one thing, it becomes a million things for our planet. What's your one thing?
Get up to $26,000 of ERC money for every employee you had in 2020 and 21 that qualifies. You qualify if you satisfy either one of these 2 tests. The easy way, your gross revenue drops a certain amount. The complex way, a full or partial closure of your business, a facts and circumstances test. You could only use the inside of your business up to 25% of capacity. Even an essential business like a food store had a 75% partial closure. Or supply chain disruptions. Or limits on the number of people you could have in an area. Or many other possible factors. Beware of companies that only consider the easy way and avoid the complex way. And also companies that fraudulently say everybody qualifies, especially companies that only just recently came into existence and then can disappear. We've been practicing tax law for over 30 years. Call Moskowitz LLP at 888-TAX-DEAL. That's 888-TAXDEAL. 888-TAX-DEAL or MoskowitzLLP.com. MoskowitZ LLP.com.
Hi, I'm your unused PTO. It's almost the end of the year, and if you don't put me on a timesheet, I will be gone forever. Use me or lose me. Let's get away.
It's getaway time. Get our best deals of the season on a new Hyundai. It's your journey. Own every mile at the Hyundai Getaway Sales Event. Now get 0% APR, 0 payments for 90 days, and $500 bonus cash on select vehicles. Hurry to your local Hyundai dealer now during the Hyundai Getaway Sales Event. Offer ends 1/3/23. Call 1-562-314-4603 for complete offer details.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
This story is called The Ugly Truth About Timeshare. If you think you've done your family a favor by buying a timeshare, you need my help. Hello, I'm Chuck McDowell, CEO and founder of Wesley Financial Group. 10 years ago, I started helping folks cancel their timeshare. And in the process, started what's now called the timeshare cancellation industry. Timeshare is the only thing that you can buy that you can't tell me how much it's going to cost or when it's going to end. When you buy a timeshare, you give them a blank check to fill out any amount they want for annual maintenance and assessment fees. The crazy thing is, this never ends. Even when you die, your family's now going to be stuck with this burden. Stop the insanity today. Call my office now. If we take you as a client, I guarantee we'll cancel your timeshare or you'll pay nothing.
Call for your free information kit. 800-543-3399. That's 800-543-3399. 800-543-3399.
Streaming on Peacock.
Fellas, I'm getting married.
From the creator of The Best Man and The Best Man Holiday.
Come with us to Quinn's wedding. Guaranteed to put a smile on your face.
And executive producer of Insecure.
They want to make unfinished business into a movie.
That book caused a lot of drama.
Get your popcorn ready.
Bring me up higher love.
It's gonna be just like old times, only better.
The Best Man, The Final Chapters. A new limited series. Streaming now. Only on Peacock.
Let's get lit!
Norman, we need to pause this surgery.
What, doctor?
Well, we need to hurry to the Xfinity Hello 2023 sale. New Xfinity customers can get 75 megabit internet for just $19.99 a month for 12 months with a 1-year contract. Plus, when you add 2 lines of Xfinity Mobile, you get $500 back for a limited time.
Drop everything. Get to the Xfinity Hello 2023 sale now through January 10th. Go to Xfinity.com/Hello2023 to learn more. Restrictions apply. Internet offer requires paperless billing and autopay with stored bank account. Equipment, taxes, and fees extra. After term, regular rates apply. Xfinity Internet required for Xfinity Mobile.
If you own a business, this has been a bumpy ride. From pandemic to inflation, I'm sure you could use a break. If your business has 5 or more employees and survived COVID, you might be eligible to receive a payroll tax refund of up to $26,000 per employee. The challenge is getting your hands on it. Hi, I'm Howard Mackler, and that's why I founded GetRefunds.com to cut through the red tape and get you that money. The team of tax attorneys we have put together are highly trained in this little-known payroll tax refund program. We do all the work, charge not a dime up front, and simply share a percentage of the cash that we get for you. Businesses of all types qualify, including those who took PPP, nonprofits, and even those that had increases in sales. We have helped return over $1 billion to businesses, and we can help your business too. Just go to GetRefunds.com and answer a few questions. This payroll tax refund is only available for a limited period of time. Don't lose out on up to $26,000 per employee. Go to GetRefunds.com. That's GetRefunds.com.
They're both so explosive, and they both had big nights scoring. And the way we started out, the game was beautiful. We were defending and getting stops and just making the simple play, throwing it ahead, and guys were knocking down shots. So it was a beautiful start to the game. And then obviously they came back and hit us pretty hard. They played a great middle 2 quarters. And so we needed every one of Klay's and Jordan's points to be able to come back and win.
Now back to Warriors This Week on 95.7 The Game.
All right, off and running here on a Saturday. John Dickinson, rainy, wet, dreary New Year's Eve Saturday here in the Bay Area on 95.7 The Game. John Dickinson and Whitey Gleason, as it is Warriors This Week. Steve Kerr there talking about Jordan Poole and Klay Thompson giving the Dubs a big-time punch last night that was needed in the victory, Whitey, over the Blazers.
Yeah, Klay was about as close to Klay as I've seen him since he's been back, JD. And maybe it's just we're getting more accustomed to what Klay is now and what his limitations are. But he's had a good week. And, you know, they missed him in the game where he had to sit out. It's going to be interesting to see going forward. At what point will Klay maybe be able to play back-to-backs? There's every indication that he wants to. And the training staff, obviously, for very good reason, being as cautious as they can. But, Klay and Jordan Poole, it's interesting. Klay talked about it last night, as I'm sure you know. It looks like the two of them are actually developing a little bit of on-court chemistry, which is another good thing to see.
No, it really is. And, again, it does raise the question, as you mentioned, and again, maybe it's a little premature to get into, but what happens when Steph comes back and when Wiggins comes back, because it is going to change how the rotation is put together, and there are going to be fewer minutes for some and no minutes for others and different minutes for others beyond that. So I think that's all going to be something that the Warriors are going to have to adjust to.
Yeah, and it probably comes down to the biggest adjustment being Jordan Poole. At some point, if you continue to struggle with it, you're going to have to find a way to be consistent and productive off the bench. That's just the reality of it. He's shown signs in the past that he can do it. He's going to have to do it for this thing to continue to roll. But again, last night for Jordan Poole, 41 points on 23 shots. Yeah, he turned the ball over a lot, but he carried them offensively. I mean, there were stretches there where the offense just stopped. Tumbleweeds, and without his production, I think Steve Kerr has learned in the past, Jordan Poole has to do this, has to do that. We got to get rid of some of the turnovers, but right now it's like we're just going to have to live with that because we can't win without him.
No doubt. And as far as the Klay Thompson back-to-backs, that was another question that I was able to get out to Steve Kerr, because originally he had ruled him out for the season in back-to-backs, and then there had been a shift a couple of weeks later, and I asked Coach Kerr about it, and he said, that came from the medical staff. Klay wants to play, but it seemingly pops up every time there's a back-to-back. Is this going to be the one where Klay does get a chance to be able to push through? 38 hard-fought minutes the other night against Charlotte. It just, to me, and I know we've talked about this a lot as far as it goes with Klay. Like to me, if there's a player in NBA history to where you could say, you know what, that player's just not going to play back-to-backs the rest of his career, I think Klay Thompson coming off of the 2 injuries would be the one guy probably at the top of the list where you would say, you know what, that's acceptable, and it sucks. He wants to play in them. Fans obviously want to see him play in them. Everybody wants to see Klay play, but it just, given the circumstances, makes the most sense. And again, I'm a guy that wants everybody to play. I hate when players get rested.
I know.
I probably more than anybody. Like, and teams that really orchestrate who's going to play what nights. Like, I can't stand that. But for Klay, it really does make a lot of sense.
It does. And to my eye, he just seems to be playing a little more free this week, and I don't see the sulking. He had been, even in some games where he played well, he was kind of sneering, and I don't know. This is really I'm going beyond the evidence here because I haven't talked to him, but just this week he seems to be in a better place, and he's not hunting shots the way he used to. Before, we've seen him this year when he wasn't shooting well, and he would hunt shots as if hey, I got to get back on track. Now he's hunting big shots at the end of games because he knows he can make them, and he knows it's the best thing for the team for him to take and make those shots. So that's been a huge part of this winning streak.
Yeah, and I also think there is a little bit of, in some ways, the pressure's on because I think he knows he has to do more with Steph and with Wiggins out. But I also think in some ways the pressure's off because he knows, and not that he ever feels like he necessarily has to take fewer shots, although that did come up in the middle of November when the Warriors had their team meeting, and he was really wrecking games by chasing his misses. But I think what's happened here is he can be a little bit more free, knowing that
good point.
There are going to be 20 to 25 shots around now, to where even if he isn't hitting, I mean, I think it's the same thing you mentioned about Poole is in line with Klay. Even if he's not hitting, hey, he's still going to be the number one or the number two option. So keep letting him rip.
Yeah, that's a great point. Real quick, I just want to mention, people talk about trades all the time. We talk about them and it's fun, but sometimes the trade rumors or whatever you want to call them that are out there, they're really dumb and they're a waste of time. And I just want to mention a couple now, so hopefully we don't have to talk about them.
There's been a few. Yeah. There's been a few this week.
Yeah, so we don't have to talk about them anymore. And somebody on the text line mentions one. There was a story somewhere about Klay where some executive said, when his contract's out, he might go to LA or Portland. Well, we don't know who said that, and Okay, maybe he might. I mean, he's not a free agent until the end of next season, whatever it is. So that's not, it's not, it looks, if you glance at it, Klay wants to trade. No, that's not the story at all. And when he's a free agent, he can go wherever he wants. He may stay here. So that was nothing. And then somebody asking today, are we not going to talk about the LeBron James trade rumors? LeBron cannot be traded because of the contract he signed. He cannot be traded by the Lakers until February 18th of 2023. The trade deadline is February 9th, okay? So that's the extent to which we're going to talk about LeBron trade rumors. They cannot trade him this year. Beyond this year, maybe it gets interesting, but right now, that's the extent of it. So no, we're not talking about that.
No, and you had a couple that I didn't even, you had a couple that I didn't even necessarily have. I mean, I know there've been, more talk about, where the Warriors can, what type of bench player could the Warriors be interested in? Kuzma was a name you mentioned in the first.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'd love to, if the Warriors could get Kyle Kuzma, that'd be awesome. I don't think they have what it would take to get even a player like Kyle Kuzma. I mean, he is though the type of player where he's young enough to, if you could trade a young player that projects to be a role player for another player that could be still pretty young and a better role player, I think that's the kind of trade that I'd be more open to potentially looking at. But again, I think what we're talking about is would you be willing to trade? Let's just put it on the table. Would you be willing to trade Jonathan Kuminga for Kyle Kuzma? And I think the majority of Warrior fans would probably say no.
Yeah, and there's also the financial considerations because I believe Kuzma will be a free agent. So presumably if he gave up something of significance,
a rental.
Or you'd either be a rental or you'd have to pony up a lot of dough to keep him next year. And obviously that's problematic for the Warriors right now.
888-957-9570, 888-957-9570. John Dickinson, Whitey Gleason here on 95.7 The Game as we're with you until 1 o'clock, trying to get you closer to the new year. Warriors with the weekend off. How about that? Steve Kerr, I was kind of wondering how he was going to do it, but he gave the players today and tomorrow off. No practice. Very rare in an NBA season to have a team get 2 days off. They're going to reconvene for a shoot-around on Monday ahead of the game against Atlanta.
Yeah, you think maybe we'll see some of them in Vegas checking out the 49ers, JD?
Possible.
Yeah.
I had that thought, and of course I'm going to be getting on a plane here, hopefully, at some point this evening. There's been a little issue this week with a certain airline that I may or may not be flying on. I am. But,
oh, boy. Fingers crossed.
So far, so good. Yeah, I was allowed to check in. And it looks like everything is for the most part on time at this point. I know we did have a texter on the Xfinity Mobile text line. Whitey, this is from a 650. You're hiding the lead. How did JD make it to Las Vegas? Was Southwest good? Well, we'll find out at about 5:30 tonight.
All right.
Because, little quick shot from 5:30 to about 7. And then, New Year's Eve in Vegas, and then the 49ers and the Raiders tomorrow.
That's going to be a fun game. It's such a weird situation with the Raiders. But, we'll probably see. You'll probably be hanging out with some of the Warriors in Vegas. So I'll be watching for that tomorrow.
You would not be surprised if there were some Warrior sightings. Maybe not tomorrow, but maybe tonight.
Yeah. Right. So what time do you get in?
Vegas.
What time are you scheduled to get in?
7, a little after 7.
Okay.
Tonight.
Plenty of time.
Quick 5:30 to 7 if all goes well. And it can be a little bit of a panicky flyer as is, but with the rain and the different things. So hoping for the best.
Yeah. Flying in, I know, can be daunting. And I know everyone knows this, but just driving in today, some hydroplaning, Craig and I. So I know you don't need us to tell you this, but if you're driving somewhere, really, please be careful because that gets a little scary too, the way things are going right now, JD, where I'd better slow down because right now my tires are not in contact with the road. So be careful and good luck to you in your flight. And I think you're going to have a great trip.
Another just quick text message going back to Dante DiVincenzo and kind of looking at just the impact that he's had. It looks like Dante, great value, $4.5 million for his age, 25 and 26 seasons. He's got an opt-out in there. And remember, I think the Warriors are hoping that he could come in, and they got him, I think, at a discount because he had been injured and I think really wanted to prove his worth on a winning team again, a high-profile winning team, to go get himself another deal. But he has an opt-out in that deal this offseason. So the better he plays, this is one of those where the better he plays, the more likely he's not going to be a member of the Golden State Warriors next year. But I think the Warriors would gladly take the 1 year and $4.5 million that he signed for this season, given what he's brought to the table to this point. And he was the one guy going back, Whitey, to the 3-7 start that was out at that point. The Warriors were pretty healthy, and obviously all of the core star players, but having him out maybe was a little bit more of a thing than we gave it credit for being at the beginning of the year.
Could be. I know he hurt his hamstring, and he wasn't great before that, but that's a great point you raise. And I just want to say, you look at him and the deal that he's on, it reminds you of Otto Porter a little bit last year, and where the Warriors are financially. They're committed to their big names are getting so much money that's smart for them to find guys like that are motivated to have big years. So that's smart. And the Warriors right now, it looks like they had a really good offseason. And I know JaMychal Green has not been what they hoped, but the two-way guys who, again, I invite the guy who called them trash to call back. I don't think we're going to hear from them. They've been, for what you'd think from your two-way guys, they've been outstanding. DiVincenzo right now is giving them, at this point, without Steph, exactly what they need. So, that's tough. And you lost some significant players last year. Really helped you. So far, looks like the Warriors did a great job. Bob Myers, who hopefully he'll be back next year. It looks like he and his staff did a great job. But mostly you got to give credit to the players like DiVincenzo for how well they're playing. And then the young players, as you say, also helping to fill that void in a way that a few weeks ago we didn't know that they were capable of doing.
Whitey, what have you made of the Bob Myers deal as far as him not having a contract? I know that came out, and I think we touched on it a little bit 2 weeks ago when we were together. But, what do you think of that? It came out the Boston game, so 3 weeks ago today, with Woj having the report. There's really nothing to the report other than he doesn't, his contract's up, and there isn't a new contract at this point, and I know he got asked about it. Was it the day you were in that you and Guru asked him about it? Mm-hmm. And he just, it just sounds like he's trying to deflect a little bit and focus on the task at hand, which is trying to defend this title.
Yeah, this is pure speculation. I hope he's back. I'm not very optimistic he'll be back for a couple reasons. And again, this is, taking 2 and 2 together. Maybe I'm getting 7. When Gu and I talked to him, to the way he answered the question, Gu and I had the same reaction where he said, I can't worry about me right now. I'm worried about the team. And the way he phrased that, it just seemed like, that doesn't sound good. Now, maybe it means nothing. Also, when he talked to, I think it was you and Steiny, and when he talked very candidly about the young players, about how, if we get 1.5 of those 3 guys, you were in that day, right? That was your interview, I think? If we get 1.5.
Possibly.
Okay.
I think, yeah.
Okay,
anyway.
Well, I apologize if it wasn't you, but where he says, if we can get something, if 1.5 of those 3 guys ends up being good, we'll be satisfied. That's a really candid answer that, again, maybe I'm totally wrong. If he were going to be around next year, I'm not sure he would have answered it that way. And I know at that time things were not going well. So when I look at those things and just the fact that there seems to be kind of a, hey, what's going on here? I sure hope he's back. I think he's done a great job. It was great last night. Draymond talked about the fact that, hey, when we had Peyton and he played the end of his 10-day, and I told him, well, we'll probably get you another one. And Draymond said, that's a great thing about Bob. If the veterans go to Bob and say, we need to give this guy another 10-day, he will do it. So it's been a great relationship. I hope going forward that he's still around, but I'm kind of getting the feeling it's not going to happen, JD.
No, it does seem like it's trending in that direction.
Yeah,
I mean, it really does, and that's the part where it makes me wonder again: is it about Bob, or is it about Joe Lacob and maybe not wanting to give him an offer, or put something on the table? It feels like this could be a decision made by Bob Myers to just move on, whether that's take a break for a period of time or focus on his family or whatever it is. It just, I don't know. I get the sense that this isn't as cut and dry as, hey, give him a contract and he signs it and wants to be around for the next 5 years.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of potential ramifications. There's a number of parties involved. So I don't even want to speculate on that. You're right, of course. But beyond that, I don't know. It's just, I get the feeling right now, if I had to give any answer to that, to me, it seems like it's leaning towards him not being around next year, and I hope that's not the case.
888-957-9570, 888-957-9570. John Dickinson, Whitey Gleason here on 95.7 The Game. Warriors have won 4 in a row as they get the job done against the Blazers last night. So they've beaten Memphis and Charlotte, Utah, and Portland to begin this trip, this homestand rather. Atlanta and Detroit, Orlando, and Phoenix to close it out here still over the first 10 days of the 2023 portion of the schedule here. Whitey, looking at a couple of other things here. The younger players have earned more trust from Steve Kerr. There was less trust in the second unit prior to recently. I still keep coming back to what does it all look like once people start to come back, and does that force some of these young players that have contributed a little bit more this week into roles that maybe just, it becomes kind of like it was at the beginning of the year a little bit. Although the most important thing, frankly, between now and April is coming up with 8-9 players that can be playoff ready. And I think at this point, we're getting closer to being able to call Jonathan Kuminga, I think, one of the eighth guy. I think we know the top 7 with Poole and DiVincenzo and the 5 starters when everybody's healthy. I think we don't know 8 and beyond, but Kuminga's really making a case to be that 8th guy.
The energy he gives you, and we've seen it, in a couple fourth quarters this week, which is huge. And the defensive intensity and versatility he brings you, he's all but right there, as solidified, I think, going forward as a guy that's going to be in the rotation. Wiseman's an interesting question, and I wanted to ask you about, because you and I haven't had the chance to talk since the Memphis game. I wanted to ask you about what you thought of that game and what you thought of Wiseman's role in that game and how he's played this week. To me, a couple of numbers that really stand out in Wiseman's box scores. He had the 30-point game, and that's fine, but the game against Memphis, I think he took no shots, and to me, it's like, that's great. He had a couple games this week where he committed one. Seriously, I know, I'm not making fun. It's like, yes, because
I know.
Yeah, a lot of guys on this team we'd rather have shooting the ball than you right now, James, and he was affecting shots in that game, which is great. He had, I think, 2 games this week in which he committed 1 foul, and I know he's not playing a lot of minutes, but that's huge. And someone asked about his ankle, and he turned his ankle, and we don't know yet how long he's going to be out or how bad that is. But what do you think of Wiseman and the way he has played this week?
No, I think he really impacted winning in 2 consecutive games, and the Memphis game above all. It's funny, I kind of chuckled when you mentioned what you did about him not taking any shots, and the reason I chuckled was because I go back to Jonathan Kuminga had a game about a month or so ago where he didn't take any shots, and that was deemed to be one of the best games that he had of the season to that point. And really, it was in some ways, we've talked about turning point for the Warriors overall. I think that was a little bit of a turning point for Kuminga, and it was again in a way where you wouldn't necessarily think it to be true. It was more with less in terms of looking to be a scorer and looking to shoot the rock for Kuminga. And again, I kind of laughed there because I thought, could this be something similar with James Wiseman now, where he's able to put an imprint on the game in a positive manner, and he's doing it more in the ways that the Warriors want him to do it, and that's the ticket toward development, and that's the ticket even to getting maybe more consistent minutes, even when other players are back and healthy. So, yeah, I think there was a little bit of a Kuminga comp. Now, it's unfortunate that yesterday at shoot-around playing 3-on-3, he winds up with an ankle sprain that kept him out of last night's game. Again, I know you've detailed how the Warriors are typically with injuries. Steve Kerr didn't sound like it was too serious in the pregame press conference, but serious enough for him to not get out there and play last night. So something to monitor here moving forward.
I still think you would love to have Wiseman available in the playoffs. And I know last year you and I disagreed on something, and ultimately you were right. Coming down the stretch, a lot of people felt like, you really would love to have some size. And I remember last year Bob Myers said, well, maybe we would have made a move, but we thought James would be available. Anyway, they didn't have that size, and they still won a championship. So last year they proved that we don't necessarily need it. I think last night, case in point, the rebounding numbers were pretty even, but I thought there have been times this week where it looked like, wow, the Warriors are a little small, and they've countered that by making threes, which then all of a sudden it's like, well, that counteracts as we know, that's Warrior basketball. We're making threes. It doesn't matter that you're bigger than us because we can bring your threes out. But I still think it's a nice thing to have available to you. And I think Wiseman could be that guy. To me right now, and I don't want to wander down that rabbit hole, JD. To me, watching James Wiseman, he's shown some growth this week. But I compare him to guys like Walker Kessler of the Jazz, and I think it is Mark Richards of the Hornets. Those are some good young players. To me, both those guys are better than Wiseman right now. Neither one of those guys is going to be a great player. I mean, they might be pretty good players and really serviceable players for a long time. They're better than Wiseman now. I don't think great player is in there. It's in their forecast. The whole idea of James Wiseman being a dominant player, it could happen. To me, that's science fiction at this point. But and I'm not being a hater. I'm not saying he's terrible. I'm saying he can still be a serviceable player, but I just don't think Wiseman as the dominant franchise guy, I don't think so. But as a serviceable, really useful guy, a big who helps you, affects shots defensively, rebounds, does all those things, I think that's on the board, and that would still be a win for the Warriors if he becomes that player. And this week, I think is the first time we've really seen a couple of games in a row where he indicated, yeah, I can be that guy.
All right, he's Whitey Gleason. I'm John Dickinson. 1 hour in the books. We got 2 hours to go. 888-957-9570. It's Warriors this week on 95.7 The Game.
I bet you folks are glad to be done with your shopping. Hopefully, all your gifts went well. But there's one last store to visit, this time just for yourself. Your chance to get one of the top-rated Samsung, LG, or Sony TVs at a crazy low price. Where? At Video Only's year-end clearance sale. A great way to end the year. If you don't check out these deals at Video Only, you'll be sorry.
O'Reilly! Be ready for winter weather with Rain-X Advant-Edge wiper blades at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Right now, purchase a pair of Rain-X Advant-Edge wiper blades and save $10 plus get 2 times O Rewards points. Our professional parts people will even install your new wiper blades for free. Stop by your local O'Reilly Auto Parts today or visit O'ReillyAuto.com.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
People who come to Cricket stay with Cricket, like Jalecia.
I'm Jalecia, and I live in Buffalo, New York. I'm a single mom, so having a 5G network is really important because I can rely on my phone to make myself reachable. I don't have to worry about the speed or my data running out. Plus, my daughter and I love snuggling up and watching movies on HBO Max.
Get a free Motorola G 5G when you switch to Cricket. Smile, you're on Cricket.
Real customer paid for testimonial. Must bring your number to Cricket on a $60 a month first month service charge and tax to its sale. Phone streams video and SD. Cricket 5G is not available everywhere. Fees, terms, and other restrictions apply. See cricketwireless.com for details.
Club Osh from Outdoor Supply Hardware gives you points for every purchase, plus free delivery and member-only pricing. And Club Osh's My Hardware Rewards app keeps your coupons on your phone. Learn more at osh.com.
Some fans gear up for game day, but some fans follow their team every day. That's why the Locked On Podcast Network has a daily podcast for your favorite NBA team. Every trade, every overtime win, every game, our local experts cover the biggest stories around your team every day. Search Locked On plus your favorite NBA team on the Odyssey app or wherever you get podcasts. The Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
This story is called The Ugly Truth About Timeshare. If you think you've done your family a favor by buying a timeshare, you need my help. Hello, I'm Chuck McDowell, CEO and founder of Wesley Financial Group. 10 years ago, I started helping folks cancel their timeshare. And in the process, started what's now called the timeshare cancellation industry. Timeshare is the only thing that you can buy that you can't tell me how much it's going to cost or when it's going to end. When you buy a timeshare, you give them a blank check to fill out any amount they want for annual maintenance and assessment fees. The crazy thing is, this never ends. Even when you die, your family's now going to be stuck with this burden. Stop the insanity today. Call my office now. If we take you as a client, I guarantee we'll cancel your timeshare or you'll pay nothing.
Call for your free information kit. 800-543-3399. That's 800-543-3399. 800-543-3399.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit porky, and you may even have type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Call Term Provider. Speak with Big Lou at 800-700-6898. Big Lou will find a term life policy for you even if you have type 2 diabetes, are overweight, or have high blood pressure. Term Provider has helped thousands of people like you who think they can't afford term life insurance. To buy $1 million of affordable term life for you, all you need to do is call Big Lou at 800-700-6898. Lou will make sure the scales are tipped in your favor. Call 800-700-6898. Big Lou will answer your call and work to fit you into a term life policy that you can afford. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds, too. Call 800-700-6898. 800-700-6898.
1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today. 1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
With car prices at an all-time high, our donors are now getting highest receipts ever. Don't miss out for 2022. Donate at carsforkids.org and your car can be picked up tomorrow.
1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Hurry! It's your last chance to donate for 2022.
If you own a business, this has been a bumpy ride. From pandemic to inflation, I'm sure you could use a break. If your business has 5 or more employees and survived COVID, you might be eligible to receive a payroll tax refund of up to $26,000 per employee. The challenge is getting your hands on it. Hi, I'm Howard Mackler, and that's why I founded GetRefunds.com to cut through the red tape and get you that money. The team of tax attorneys we have put together are highly trained in this little-known payroll tax refund program. We do all the work, charge not a dime up front, and simply share a percentage of the cash that we get for you. Businesses of all types qualify, including those who took PPP, nonprofits, and even those that had increases in sales. We have helped return over $1 billion to businesses, and we can help your business too. Just go to GetRefunds.com and answer a few questions. This payroll tax refund is only available for a limited period of time. Don't lose out on up to $26,000 per employee. Go to GetRefunds.com. That's GetRefunds.com.
I think we kind of built that chemistry last year. It's paying dividends this year. And JP is such an amazing shot creator as well as a playmaker. And it's easy to play off him when he puts so much pressure on the defense. I think we have a good synergy between us. Hopefully we can keep this going even when we get to full strength. I mean, we'll be in that second unit a lot together. So it's been great. We call each other 311 like the band.
Now back to Warriors This Week on 95.7 The Game.
That do anything for you, Whitey?
I hadn't heard that. I hadn't heard that. I love that. I like that. 311, like the band. Yeah, it works.
There's only one Klay Thompson. There's only one Klay. I mean, just the way that he carries himself and the way he thinks and lives his life, man. It's just it's a beautiful thing, Whitey Gleason.
He's fun to be around or just to watch when he's having fun. And the trust that he spoke of, there's a lot of that going on with the Warriors. You got Kerr now, and he's trusting Kuminga more. He's even trusting Wiseman more. And you got Poole and Klay trusting each other more. And it takes time, as we know. And we want to assume that everything comes together, but it's not that easy. And that's been a big part of this winning streak. I think it speaks also of it's an overused word, JD, but we talk about it all the time when it comes to the Warriors for good reason. They do have a winning culture. Bottom line with that culture is we're all on the same page. We all want to win here, and I think we're seeing the fruits of that as well this week.
All right, hour number 2, John Dickinson, Whitey Gleason, 888-957-9570. Let's go to Gloria in San Francisco here to get us rolling in hour number 2 on 95.7 The Game. Hey, Gloria.
Hey, thanks for taking my calls, gentlemen, and Happy New Year's Eve to you both.
Thank you.
You as well.
What I wanted to talk about is what you guys already been saying, looking at the Warriors on their 4-game Homestead winning streak has been impressive, mainly with the growing development of Jonathan Kuminga and that rookie guard that comes off the bench that's been playing really great. I forgot his name. It's Jay something, but I really like how he's been playing. And DiVincenzo, the way he's been playing, and Klay getting back into form. And you can really see how Steve Kerr is coaching these rookies up, and they're learning how to play Warrior-style basketball. That's the culture that you speak of. With this, with their current record, with them being so impressive at home and then a little lackluster, to say the least, on the road, do you think as they continue to build on their cohesiveness, do you think that this will be their Achilles heel in defending their championship if they don't get home court advantage, if they have to go on the road? And one more thing. I want to ask, with constant coaching and development, isn't it possible that Wiseman can become better than a serviceable player, mainly because with more coaching, he didn't have the chance to play college ball because of COVID, and with more coaching, he could become better than serviceable. Thank you, guys. I'll take your answer off.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Gloria. Three things, really. The first one, Ty Jerome, I think is who she was talking about, the two-way player who really he's gotten more minutes, and he's been a stabilizing factor for the Warriors here with guys out. He's also been a little bit of a scorer for the Warriors that I didn't think they necessarily knew they had, having to take more shots with players out. I think it's going to be interesting. We haven't talked about this yet today. Does there come a point where the Warriors need to convert, Anthony Lamb's contract to a full season contract, or Ty Jerome's contract to a full season contract? No rush at this point, but the Warriors only have one roster spot to move one of those two into to make them playoff eligible. Do you wind up in a difficult spot if you end up wanting to keep both of them, because both of them have been so helpful of late? I think in the case of Jerome, if the Warriors are healthy, he probably doesn't play a lot, if at all, so maybe you don't need to convert him. But Anthony Lamb has been somebody to where they've really needed what he's brought to the table as an insurance policy. Even when they were healthy, he was getting more and more minutes. Well,
I don't know what his numbers are, JD, but he's been an incredible three-point shooter, Lamb has. That's the one thing where it's like, I think, didn't he make a huge one last night? He was 1 for 2, but he's one of those guys like, he can't keep making all these shots. Boom! And he's got that funny style where the guide hand comes off really early, so it looks like he's shooting with one hand. He's been deadly. Ty Jerome, I think you're right. And Steve Kerr talked about that very question this week, and he downplayed it. It's like, yeah, we don't have to do anything like that now, but we certainly have that option, and they've certainly both earned it, so it's not a pressing issue for them. They do have that as an option, though. Ty Jerome, I think the thing that's impressive about him, he has a great ability to recognize what needs to be done. Now, he's not the most talented player by NBA standards, so he can't always do it. Like he's not a threat to make an all-defensive team or anything. But as you said, wow, he's a surprisingly good scorer. This week against Charlotte, he recognized this is what the team needs me to do here. He gets the team into its offense. He's got a great, I hate this term sometimes, but he's got a really good basketball IQ, and he's one of those guys like Damian Lee was a little bit, where you may not play, but then if you need him to do something, JD, there's a really good chance he's going to be able to do that for you. That's been, I think, the way he's contributed the most with the Warriors so far.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And look, if the Warriors have everybody, it's Steph and Klay, it's Poole and DiVincenzo as the backup guards, and Steve Kerr's going to have to cobble together the combinations and groups that are going to play together as far as all of that goes. And then you've got, beyond that, Ty Jerome, who is essentially the third point guard, I think, on the team. And then you've got Moses Moody, who I think they view as the next guy who's a 2-3 off of that. So I think I think the way you said it was perfect in that he's somebody that doesn't have to play, and if everybody's healthy, he probably doesn't play. But if you take one or two players away and he immediately has to go up the pecking order and into the rotation from outside of it, you feel like he can give you productive minutes, and that's something that he has to this point been able to do. As far as Wiseman, Gloria asked us about Wiseman, and I think baby steps for him the first couple of games. But at this point, I don't think we should look too strongly at the fact that they are baby steps and look more toward the fact that it's a positive step, and there really hadn't been very many, if any, positive steps to this point this season since he went down to the G League and came back. And I think you could make the case. I know we kind of blew off the 30-point game against Brooklyn, but the last two games, if he gained some confidence from that to where in the first two games of this homestand, Memphis and Charlotte, he's able to play a little bit and help them win, especially the Memphis game with his defense, then that's something that shouldn't go unrecognized.
Yeah, from the on the text line here, JD from the 559, Wiseman is 19 years old. Wembanyama turns 19 next week. Can Wiseman evolve into a better player? Let that sink in. Okay, do the math. If Wiseman's 19 now, then how old was he when he was a rookie? I don't think that adds up. To Gloria's point, Wiseman can become more than a serviceable player. To me, JD, a serviceable player is not a bad thing. So I don't mean that like as an insult. I think right now, and you mentioned the term baby steps, right now looking at Wiseman, I think by the end of this year, he could become a serviceable player. That would be really good. I don't think I'm being a hater. Beyond that, can he be more than that? I think he can. I don't know. To me, the ceiling on Wiseman now is lower than we thought when we didn't know that much about him, but that's okay. So when I talk about Wiseman this week showing that he could be a serviceable player for you the rest of this year, I don't think that's a bad thing, JD.
Can he be a serviceable player for the remainder of this year, though? I think that's the question.
Yeah,
because I don't think we know the answer to that at this point, and I still think we're talking 6 to 8 minutes a game, and we're also talking about 6 to 8 minutes a game with JaMychal Green out. And I know we had a text come in on the Xfinity Mobile text line asking the two of us, what is JaMychal Green's future on this team? Is he somebody that has not played well when he's gotten opportunities? But is he somebody that is here, you think, for the long haul? Is he somebody that you think would be playoff trusted?
Yeah, I don't know. I think you're getting what you wanted from Green from other people now. And just back to that text, if you're going to compare Wiseman to Wembanyama, I mean, bless you for listening. Appreciate that, whether you agree or not. And Happy New Year. But if you're going to compare Wiseman to Wembanyama, you should just go sit in a corner for like 5 minutes, a self-imposed timeout. Because come on, have you seen Wembanyama play? And again, that's not a shot at Wiseman, but no, we don't compare Wiseman to Wembanyama. Not on my watch right now, JD. That's unfair to everybody.
No question.
Thank you.
Yes, I just sometimes I got to let you go, let you roll, and then we just
we're not doing that. We're not doing that.
And reset. Yeah. Cannot do that. Let's get to Sean on the phone lines, 888-957-9570. Sean in San Diego joining us here on Warriors This Week. What's going on, Sean?
Hey, good morning, guys. I just had a quick question for you. Who do you think will probably be in the closing lineup with Steph, Klay, Wiggins, and Draymond? Between Poole, DiVincenzo, and Kuminga, if Kuminga and DiVincenzo continue to play defense like they are right now? I'll listen to your answer off the line. Thank you.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
If the Warriors are fully healthy, that Steph and Klay are going to be out there, Wiggins is going to be out there, Draymond is going to be out there. The fifth, I think, depending upon the night, it could be Kuminga. I think it could be Dante DiVincenzo. I think at times it could still be Kevon Looney if they feel they need what he provides. It's really three different players for three different situations. The one thing I'll say for DiVincenzo, Whitey, he's shown an ability to, I think, guard up a little bit and rebound to where you can almost get away with him, between him and Klay, one of them being the three between the two of them and one of them being the 2, you can get away with that, I feel like. And so it really does give you some flexibility. I think DiVincenzo, it's just going to – the short answer is it's just going to depend on the night. I don't think it's necessarily going to be one player to close it out, above the others. On a game-in, game-out basis, like it used to be. All right, you knew Durant was going to be the 5th. You knew Iguodala was going to be the 5th if he was going to be out there. Now I think it's a little bit, it's a little bit more fluid and matchup dependent. It's also who's having a good night dependent.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I agree. But I think if you had to break it down, most likely you'd probably go, if I heard the question right, it'd probably be who's the 5th? A, Poole, B, Looney, C, DiVincenzo, D, Kuminga, all possible. But I would think if you really force Steve Kerr's hand on that, and you're right, it depends. Well, okay. But in general terms, I think it'd probably break down that way. DiVincenzo, just real quick, wanted to talk about that steal again last night where he makes a steal from Dame Lillard. And I know Slates did a great job writing about that today in The Athletic. And don't you think, JD, okay, you're Dante DiVincenzo, and you've done a good job, but this is Dame Lillard. So you're thinking, this guy's a master, and probably best case is that he's going to get a shot he wants and he's going to miss it. So what can I do? Is there any way I can keep him from getting to that shot? He exposed the ball a little bit. There's my chance. Now, if he fouls him there, that's a bad play, but you have that chance to even keep him from getting to the shot that Dame wants, and it was a great play in that situation. Again, the second huge steal in the fourth quarter this week in a big Warrior win.
Yeah, and look, I like what Draymond said. He's an aggressive defender.
Yeah,
meaning DiVincenzo. So be aggressive, and I think that's to me. That's what you have to do against a big time player like Dame. And look, you said it earlier. Kuminga did it to PJ Washington. DiVincenzo does it to Damian Lillard, and it winds up being 2 big time winning plays for the Warriors here in a week where they have yet to lose. 888-957-9570, 888-957-9570. Angry Vegan in Richmond is here on Warriors this week.
Welcome back.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
I'm just calling to talk about Patrick Baldwin Jr. The thing of what I love about him, aside from being a coach's son, he has a 9.2.5 standing reach. So that's the level of a center. That's like as big a reach as Kevin Durant or your average center, Andrew Bogut, the same standing reach. And what's great about that is, you remember the other night Colin Sexton was driving to the rim. Originally they called it a foul on him, and they realized no, he had to clear out because without even jumping, Baldwin is tall enough to contest. Another play when Lauri Markkanen was guarding him at the three-point line, normally Markkanen's a big dude. He was right up on him. He just shot effortlessly over him because he's too long to have his shot blocked. Even a jump shot, when the guy's up on him like that. And I kind of feel like in a game like last night, I know they love Lamb and Lamb is good, but when they were in a hole and not scoring, when they were down 18, I would have loved if he had given him a few minutes to try a few threes because he's delivered in so many games that mattered, games that didn't. He's performed right out of the gate. So I wish they would play him a bit more.
Thanks for the call. I raised the question yesterday, Whitey, when I was in the afternoon, and you've been in the morning all week. Would there be a scenario where Patrick Baldwin Jr. could get some of Anthony Lamb's minutes, knowing that Anthony Lamb is somebody that as it's currently laid out, would not be a playoff-eligible player as a two-way? Because I do think there are, with the shooting component, that's something that Patrick Baldwin Jr. has, that Lamb also has. I like Baldwin Jr.'s touch. I like his seemingly basketball IQ and his length as Angry Vegan laid out. It's 2 games we're talking about. It was the one game against Brooklyn, and it was the game the other night where he's come in and filled it up. A meaningful opportunity against the Jazz, a game where you're down 40 basically against Brooklyn. But either way, he played well in both. And PBJ said that the first game allowed him to get more comfortable for the second game. So they all matter in that sense, Whitey. But I don't know. What do you think of Patrick Baldwin Jr.? I think the Warriors are definitely bringing him along slowly, but he's got a feel, and I think he's an interesting player because he does complement the other players on the Warriors roster very well to where if he can just not be a disaster on the defensive side, he can probably get in there in some short stretches, and he doesn't make a lot of plays that really kill you on the offensive side, and he might knock down a couple of shots.
Yeah, thank you, Angry Vegan. I didn't realize that Baldwin's reach was as impressive as it was. Appreciate that. I'm with Angry Vegan and you, JD. I was wondering that last night myself. Like, we're going to see any PBJ? The first glimpse I had of the Warriors this year in the preseason, those Japan games, the two things that popped to me, like just, watch, it's like, boom. One of them was how much more aggressive Wiseman was, and the other was, wow, this guy Baldwin, I think he might really be a player. So, yeah, to your point, we all know Steve Kerr's very judicious with the use of really young players, but whenever that next opportunity arises in Coach's mind, he's going to be less reluctant to go there because Baldwin was so efficient and effective against the Jazz. That was great to see. What a great draft pick for the Warriors. So many teams, like, this guy was hurt, and we don't know if he's going to be healthy enough. Yeah, he was a great prospect coming out of high school, but there's risk involved. And for the Warriors, it's like, well, where we draft, we don't normally have a shot at that much talent. And if it doesn't pan out, we're okay because we're already so good. So great draft pick by them. I'm really looking forward to seeing more of Patrick Baldwin Jr. I'm disappointed a little bit, but not surprised that he didn't play more last night. But he's going to be a real asset for this team going forward. Maybe not a lot this year, but he's something to be excited about going forward.
888-957-9570, 888-957-9570. John Dickinson, Whitey Gleason here, Warriors This Week at 95.7 The Game. Let's go to Tim in Napa next with JD and Whitey here on a Saturday. What's going on, Tim?
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Good.
So I'm sorry that I'm coming off the PB&J fan club because I don't have much PB&J knowledge to bring other than the fact that he didn't play last night.
Right.
And that's kind of a Steve Kerr's MO. It's like young guys are really not going to get too much time. But my big thing was, one, the officiating last night. I'm curious what your guys' thoughts were about that. And then also Steve Kerr's substitution and like his whole timing of the players seemed really off yesterday. I was curious your thoughts.
Well, foul trouble, I think, was part of that. I think Kuminga was going to play a lot more than he wound up playing, but he was in foul trouble, and I think that juggled the rotation a little bit, as it often does. I thought it was a poorly officiated game. I know there are a few people, as I'm making my way down to do the post game last night, that are saying, JD, you got to crush the refs. Why are the refs against? I can't do the whole, why are the refs against the Warriors thing. I don't see that. I think there's some calls that don't go the Warriors' way. I think there's some calls that do go the Warriors' way. I know on Memphis game, they were all fired up about the officiating. I thought the Warriors were actually getting a decent whistle in that game. Now, they didn't, but
yeah.
It hasn't been as bad as sometimes it gets made out to be. But, yeah, there is a pecking order to go back to the rotation and the young players. And, I think Steve Kerr does, and a lot of coaches do this, view players, and unless somebody is significantly better that's a younger or lesser experienced player. I'll say Patrick Baldwin, let's just say in comparison to Moses Moody in terms of experience level, right? What typically coaches will do is they're not going to play a player that is even in the more recent draft class above somebody that has been with the team longer, unless they're going to also play that player if it makes sense. There's just a pecking order to, hey, I'm telling you to work on these things, and I think it's almost out of respect to the lottery picks that were picked the year before. And at some point, if a guy can play and he's better, he's just better, and none of that matters. But I think when it is different versions of guys not getting on the court for the most part, there is almost a, hey, I can't tell Moses Moody if you do these things, you're going to get on the floor, and then not put him on the floor, and then put Patrick Baldwin on the floor because Patrick Baldwin knocks down a couple of shots, if that makes sense.
Yeah, the only negative I have right now at Patrick Baldwin Jr., the only one, is the fact that he claims to have not had a PBJ until recently. As Kyle Madsen said this week when I was on with Kyle, he said, boy, if I knew that, I don't know if I could draft the guy. We're just joking. But wait, you've never had one? The answer, I think, to the question about Kerr and the rotations here, and I hope you will either side with me on this or not, JD, because you have, to me, you clearly have a keener sense of Kerr and his rotations than frankly than I do. Talking with you over the years, you really have a real good handle on what he's doing. To me right now, it looks like this week, they're so shorthanded, he's kind of just flying by the seat of his pants. And that's why, like last night, you look at the starters all had, Looney only had 25 minutes. He's getting as much as he can out of the starters, which leaves a little bit for the other guys. And then some of it is, well, let's see how this guy's playing, that guy's playing. A case in point, the Utah game, it's like, wow, we need something. Patrick Baldwin Jr. played 4 minutes in the fourth quarter of a game that was up for grabs against Utah and had a good game. So Tim points out Steve Kerr's rotations, little erratic right now. To me, I think that's just because of where they are, and I think he realizes I don't know for sure what I'm getting out of people, so I got to be more flexible.
Yeah, and I think some of it is you just start taking players away on your depth chart, and it's just I think it's just next man up, honestly. I think it's that's provided some of these opportunities. I think that's why Wiseman's been playing, to be perfectly honest. I mean, we can say it's because he's played well and he's earned it, and I think to a certain extent he has, but it's also, hey, we don't have JaMychal Green, and Draymond's a little banged up, and we don't want to play Kevon Looney 35 minutes. So, James, you're going to get 6 to 8 minutes, and go get them. And so I think with Moses Moody had gone from not playing to playing because you're down a guard or a couple of guards at different junctures if Klay Thompson's going to be out. So I think it has been, hey, I'm just going to the next guys on the depth chart. The only reason Patrick Baldwin Jr. played the other night was because Jonathan Kuminga was in foul trouble the other night. Yeah. If he doesn't get in foul trouble, 3 fouls with about 6 minutes to go in the first half, then Baldwin probably never sees the floor. Last night with the Warriors, Kuminga in foul trouble, but they had Klay back, so they had an extra player in the rotation last night compared to the prior night. Then that meant Patrick Baldwin didn't get on the floor last night. So I also think when you go that deep into the bench, Whitey, what happens is if you have similar players, so if somebody maybe doesn't have it in the first shift of the night, you just go to a different player in the second shift of for that particular slot on a different night or in a second half. Yeah,
the coach looks at it a lot differently than we do, whereas as fans, we someone plays well and we think, oh, he deserves to play more. And that's the last thing on the mind of Steve Kerr or any NBA coach right now. It's like, yes, that's great. When we needed you, you played well. I don't know when the next time we're going to need you is, but you better be ready to do it again, which gets back to the fact that the Warriors are trying to win this year, win a championship. They're not as worried about developing their young players. But that was really good to see from Patrick Baldwin Jr. this week.
888-957-9570. He's Whitey Gleason. I'm John Dickinson. We're halfway through here on a Saturday. We'll come back. More phone calls. Have the Warriors turned a corner? What does the rotation look like when healthy? And can some of what the Warriors have done here in these last 4 games translate to the road? We'll get into all of that coming up here on 95.7 The Game.
I bet you folks are glad to be done with your shopping. Hopefully, all your gifts went well. But there's one last store to visit. This time, just for yourself. Your chance to get one of the top-rated Samsung, LG, or Sony TVs at a crazy low price. Where? At Video Only's year-end clearance sale. A great way to end the year. If you don't check out these deals at Video Only, you'll be sorry.
Are you dreaming of an adventure? Ready for a getaway? Celebrate the season with SFO. Enter the SFO Holiday Sweepstakes by visiting flysfo.com/holidays for your chance to win a $1,000 credit toward a nonstop flight from SFO with more than 115 destinations to choose from worldwide and other great prizes with SFO this holiday season. SFO, your gateway to holiday cheer. Go to flysfo.com/holidays for your chance to win today.
Norman, we need to pause this surgery.
What, doctor?
Well, we need to hurry to the Xfinity Hello 2023 sale. New Xfinity customers can get 75 megabit internet for just $19.99 a month for 12 months with a 1-year contract. Plus, when you add 2 lines of Xfinity Mobile, you get $500 back for a limited time.
Drop everything. Get to the Xfinity Hello 2023 sale now through January 10th. Go to Xfinity.com/Hello2023 to learn more. Restrictions apply. Internet offer requires paperless billing and autopay with stored bank account. Equipment, taxes, and fees extra. After term, regular rates apply. Xfinity Internet required for Xfinity Mobile.
Hi, I'm your unused PTO. It's almost the end of the year, and if you don't put me on a timesheet, I will be gone forever. Use me or lose me. Let's get away.
It's getaway time. Get our best deals of the season on a new Hyundai. It's your journey. Own every mile at the Hyundai Getaway Sales Event. Now get 0% APR, 0 payments for 90 days, and $500 bonus cash on select vehicles. Hurry to your local Hyundai dealer now during the Hyundai Getaway Sales Event. Offer ends 1/3/23. Call 1-562-314-4603 for complete offer details.
Here's to Prilosec OTC. Without Prilosec, I wouldn't be able to enjoy all this yummy holiday food. Speaking of, whoever made that apple pie, delicious. I just take 1 pill each morning and 0 heartburn all day. So cheers to Prilosec OTC. Ooh, are those jalapeno poppers?
Prilosec OTC prevents excess acid that can cause heartburn, so you can enjoy the holidays. 1 pill a day, 24 hours, 0 heartburn. It's possible while taking Prilosec OTC. Use as directed for 14 days to treat frequent heartburn, not for immediate relief.
1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today. 1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
With car prices at an all-time high, our donors are now getting highest receipts ever. Don't miss out for 2022. Donate at carsforkids.org and your car can be picked up tomorrow.
1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Hurry! It's your last chance to donate for 2022.
If you own a business, this has been a bumpy ride. From pandemic to inflation, I'm sure you could use a break. If your business has 5 or more employees and survived COVID, you might be eligible to receive a payroll tax refund of up to $26,000 per employee. The challenge is getting your hands on it. Hi, I'm Howard Mackler, and that's why I founded GetRefunds.com to cut through the red tape and get you that money. The team of tax attorneys we have put together are highly trained in this little-known payroll tax refund program. We do all the work, charge not a dime up front, and simply share a percentage of the cash that we get for you. Businesses of all types qualify, including those who took PPP, nonprofits, and even those that had increases in sales. We have helped return over $1 billion to businesses, and we can help your business too. Just go to GetRefunds.com and answer a few questions. This payroll tax refund is only available for a limited period of time. Don't lose out on up to $26,000 per employee. Go to GetRefunds.com. That's GetRefunds.com.
This is a special notice to all U.S. taxpayers. It's good news for all Americans who owe back taxes to the IRS or state and struggling to pay them back. The IRS is now making it easier to settle delinquent tax problems through a federal program called the Fresh Start Initiative. Due to the financial hardship many are facing in this current economic downturn, qualifying for this program will settle your delinquent tax problem, end all collections, and may even reduce your back taxes by up to 99%. For this free information and to see if you qualify, call the hotline at the Tax Hardship Center by dialing 800-411-6406. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes and cannot afford to pay them, there's no need to worry. You may now qualify to settle your delinquent tax problem and save thousands of dollars. To see if you qualify and to get this important free information, call 800-411-6406. 800-411-6406. That's 800-411-6406.
Jerome, left side, crossover, midcourt, lets it fly, it's up and good! He hit it from half court! Send it in, Jerome! Warriors will take a 41-25 lead at the break.
Now back to Warriors This Week on 95.7 The Game.
Yeah, big one from Ty Jerome.
Yeah.
Ty Jerome's been making shots, nothing like a 41-footer to close a quarter, and the Warriors up at that point, 41-25 into the first quarter last night. Second and third quarters ugly, but the Warriors able to make up for it in a fourth quarter, even shorthanded, 30-16 in the final frame. They go on to win 118-112 over the Blazers. John Dickinson, Whitey Gleason here on 95.7 The Game. It's Warriors this week, and the Warriors are back over 500 and 4-0 on the homestand, 16-2 run for the Dubs down the stretch to ultimately win that game.
Yeah, and the last two games, they've given up a total of 29 points over the last two fourth quarters, which is incredible and remarkable and inspirational. Again, when you're talking about teams that are right there with you in the Western Conference standings. And the Warriors over 500 now, doing it to a large extent with defense, which is great. And although last night this was not the case as much, they've, as you pointed out earlier, JD, they've really gotten some significant contributions from the young players this week. So it's all been coming together in this holiday season since I got home after they had those two disastrous games in New York and came off that disastrous road trip. So they've got the season back on track. Going forward, it would still be great, I think, if you could add to this roster. Not because you need to get rid of anybody, but because other teams that you're competing with are going to be looking to add to this roster. And I think a name to keep an eye on potentially is Kyle Kuzma of the Wizards. He's a free agent. The Wizards would love to keep him, but he may make it clear, I'm not staying, in which case they may say, well, we'll have to trade him rather than, lose him for nothing. He's a free agent, so I don't know if he would be somebody the Warriors could go out and get and then keep. I don't know if he's a fit for the Warriors, but as far as being a guy who can shoot and defend, he's a wing. I think if there's any way to get him, he would be a nice piece. If he doesn't go here, there's a chance. He doesn't come here, I should say, chance he could be coming somewhere. So he's just a name to keep an eye on as trade season approaches.
I think Kyle Kuzma is a terrific player and would be a terrific fit for the Warriors, flat out.
Yeah.
I think where it becomes a little problematic is, more than a little, is how do you go about getting him, and what would you wind up getting, giving up to get Kyle Kuzma, and would you be willing to re-sign him to a bigger deal? I would be, frankly, but again, that gets into the luxury tax situation, and you'd be at that point talking about a bench player. But we were having the conversation earlier, and I had omitted Jordan Poole, which I should not have done when the caller had asked us, who's the fifth that's going to finish games. Steph, Klay, Wiggins, Draymond are going to be out there. Is it Poole? Is it Kuminga? Is it DiVincenzo? Or is it Looney? I think one of those four, depending upon the night. Kyle Kuzma could be another guy that could finish games for the Warriors as the fifth if he wound up being somebody in that equation. But yeah, I'm looking at Kyle Kuzma, and I mean, what would you be willing to give up for Kyle Kuzma? And again, it's simple for me. If you're not trading anything of consequence for Kyle Kuzma, which means you probably can't get him, unless you're going to be willing to sign him to an extension. And look, he's a 3-year, $39 million player. And so you have to look at it, I think, as, would you be willing to pay him close to $18, $20 million a year moving forward? I think that becomes the debate.
Yeah, NBC Sports Pro Basketball Talk, they suggest that if you're going to keep Kuzma, it would cost in the ballpark, and this is close to what you're saying, and maybe you're right and they're wrong, but they're suggesting ballpark at $25 million a season. And then, of course, what you multiply by what with the Warriors, every dollar you multiply by 7 or whatever it is. So that becomes really problematic.
So again, he's a 4-year, $100 million extension or $100 million contract in free agency after he opts out. And he is under contract for next year, but has an opt-out, which obviously he will with only $13 million tied to him for next year currently.
Yeah. Kyle Kuzma is young enough where I would not be too reluctant to give up some of my young talent for him. I don't know that the Warriors have any interest in doing that. But if he's available, there's probably going to be suitors, so the price will probably be pretty high. So it's hard to imagine the Warriors pulling that off. It'd be great if they did, and then you'd have a nice piece going forward, another younger player. Some other names that we think are available, again, according to Pro Basketball Talk, the Pistons, and I'm not saying these are good fit for the Warriors, but just what's out there as we walk down the shelves. Bojan Bogdanovic, maybe Malik Beasley, perhaps. Jared Vanderbilt's a name that has come up. Cam Reddish. So, Kyle Kuzma would be great. Vanderbilt, I think, could help you. But we're not there yet, but just it's time to keep your mind open here about what could happen at the deadline. Because as I said, key thing is you want to upgrade, but also other teams in your conference are also going to be looking to upgrade, especially Denver's expected to be aggressive.
Yeah, I like Malik Beasley. I think he's somebody that could help as another wing type player, another guard wing.
Shooting the ball well this year. Yeah.
Trustable and a little bit streaky with the shot, but shooting the ball well this year, kind of a 3-and-D type of a player. Somebody that you can trust. And again, I don't want to act like I'm coming down on Kuminga at all, but I do feel like while Kuminga pencils as a regular member of the rotation for the time being, are you really I just feel like the Warriors they need one more insurance policy type player, better than an insurance policy type player, but one more just playable wing to where you don't have to be 100% dependent on Kuminga game in, game out of a playoff series. It doesn't mean he's not going to play, doesn't mean he's not going to contribute, but if you're getting, games like Kuminga, let's say last night in a playoff, and look, Andrew Wiggins is going to be back, and so Wiggins would have been playing last night, as I mentioned earlier, and it really probably isn't that big of a deal, but just one more guy that's been through it and has a little something to him as a veteran, to where if you wanted to go away from Kuminga, you could go away from Kuminga in a playoff and have that trusted piece. So to me, that's where a guy like Kuzma comes in. I think that's where a guy like Beasley comes in. Vanderbilt is obviously more of a big but a versatile defending big. Mm-hmm. That I like Vanderbilt a lot. I'm trying to think the other name. There was one name that I hated, and
Cam
I can't
Reddish.
Remember.
Was it Cam Reddish?
Yeah, Cam Reddish stinks. Yeah. I would want no part of Cam Reddish.
I'm with you.
I can't stand Cam Reddish. He's got no value as far as I'm concerned.
Well, yeah, there's a reason why the Knicks are reportedly open to offers for him, because they don't want him either.
Yeah, I'm out on Cam Reddish, but I think some of those other players could help you. But again, it's like, let's just put it this way. If you could get Kyle Kuzma, would you trade James Wiseman and someone for Kyle Kuzma and then re-sign Kyle Kuzma to a 4-year, $100 million contract? Like, I don't know about that.
Right.
And I like Kuzma as a player, but it just, I don't know about all of that. You're talking about, and look, the Wizards would probably ask for Kuminga, to be honest. So would you be giving up Kuminga and Moody, for, and again, I'm not looking at the salaries, but then, and be willing to do that, but then also be willing to say, okay, now Kuzma's going to come in and you're going to sign him to a $100 million contract with the luxury tax and having to already maybe decide you're going to move off of one of your championship core guys to save on luxury tax. Like, it just, to this point, with what we know about how the Warriors want to operate moving forward, it just doesn't quite seem to add up, although it would be a great, great, great basketball fit.
I think the only way that could work is if you thought that Draymond was opting out and you wouldn't have to pay him. But, as we've discussed now, you would really like to keep Draymond next year with everything he's given you. So, yeah.
But now you're saying Draymond's gone at that point if you do that, if you're playing that. Like, you're basically saying Draymond's not, he's just done.
Yeah, and I don't think that's worth it. So where you are right now. So Kuzma's an enticing name, but I'm with you. It's, Bob Myers is a genius when it comes to finagling these things, and the Warriors are, when they want to get somebody, they figure out a way to do it. But it's hard, if not just impossible, for me to imagine how in the world they could make that work, all things considered.
He's Whitey Gleason. I'm John Dickinson. 888-957-9570. 888-957-9570. It is Warriors This Week, as we're with you here until 1 o'clock today on New Year's Eve. I hope everybody has had a great holiday week and has a great holiday weekend here as the new year set to roll just about 12-plus hours from now as the Warriors 19-18, Whitey, back above 500, and in short order here with 4 games to go on this homestand. A couple of the questions on the board here at 888-957-9570. If the Warriors turned a corner, what does the rotation look like when healthy? And one we haven't really gotten to is, can this translate on the road? I'm still not even quite to the road portion of this thing yet. I'm like, I want to make sure they can finish this homestand now 7-1 at a minimum. I'm going to give them one mulligan somewhere, one clunker, one game where they don't play well, one game where somebody else plays great, whether it's Atlanta or Phoenix. It probably shouldn't be Detroit or Orlando, although Detroit and Orlando have beaten the Warriors already this year, as has Phoenix. So we'll have to, again, different home versus road has been the case all year for the Warriors, but it is a fair question, and it's one Steve Kerr raised. Can it translate onto the road? They've got to start winning some road games in the regular season to show that they can win in the playoffs. But I'm still more of the thought, let's see them finish this homestand strong at 4-0 and get to 7-1 and not somehow slip up and look like a team that's playing woefully shorthanded here over the course of this next week and a half.
Yeah, through playing some really, really gritty basketball, you put yourself in position to have a spectacular homestand, and 8-0's definitely on the board, so see if they can take advantage of that. But speaking of road wins, I want to take you back, JD, back through the mists of time to 1 year ago tomorrow, which I'm sure you remember well. New Year's Day 2022, final score from Utah. Huge win for the Warriors, 123-116. The Warriors outscored the Jazz. This was New Year's Day 2022. They outscored them 37-25 in the fourth quarter. That dropped the Jazz, who were having a fine year at that point, to 26-10, and the Warriors raised their record to 28-7. They got 25 from Wiggins in that game, 28 from Steph. And then Peyton had 12, and Iguodala had 12. Just a year ago, Poole had 10. I mentioned that game for a number of reasons. One is, I'll never forget this, it was after that game I remember being on with you, and you said at that point, the Warriors, they've convinced me they're a championship contender. They're the best team in the NBA. And you were right. They went on to win the championship. That was New Year's Day of this year. How much things have changed, and yet right now, a year later, the Warriors looking like maybe they're getting ready to put together a significant run here when the calendar flips over to 2023.
Yeah, and that was before Klay Thompson had come back.
Yeah.
He was still about a week away from his return, which ended up being on January the 9th, and it is a point at which, as we all do in life and our careers and personal lives and everything else, do tend to reflect as we head toward the new year. I mean, you think back to just all of the unknowns, basically. Although the Warriors were off to a great start to the season a year ago, but all the unknowns as to what was ahead. Could Klay Thompson contribute? How would it impact Jordan Poole? The Warriors were tremendously banged up after they reached their high water mark of the season in February at 41-13. They went back to Salt Lake City right after that, got beat by the Knicks after that, had a little bit of a losing spell right before the All-Star break, and then came out of the All-Star break, and Curry goes down, and Draymond had been out, and they never really got anything on the same page until that first-round playoff series against the Nuggets, and it was as if it just a light switch went off and everything worked, and the Warriors able to make a run toward another NBA championship. Pretty crazy when you think back to just everything that's gone on in the calendar year 2022. All of the great playoff series, from that Nuggets series to the Grizzlies series, and having to go win Game 1 in that building and close them out in 6, and then Steph Curry finally getting the Finals MVP as well. Just a wild year, and a fun team to be reflective of looking back at 2022, Whitey.
Yeah, and one of the things that's made it fun is that it has been so up and down. Looking back to last year after the calendar flipped to 2022, and I'm thinking back of that right before the All-Star break, the loss at home to Denver, and how devastating that was, and the win over the Rockets at home where Steph Curry was jumping around. Remember when Raymond Ritter wouldn't let him in the tunnel? And it was like, why are you getting so excited about beating the Rockets? Because they were struggling so mightily. And then the game against the Celtics, where the Celtics not only destroyed them in San Francisco, but also Steph got hurt, and it was looking very bleak. And then they, as you said, and we all know, the playoffs start, and boom, there they go. And this year has been much the same. This week, even though they're they're 4-0 on the homestand at this point. It's been so incredible the way they've been so up and down. Just last night, where they get off to that great start, and then they play so terribly, or they up 18 and down 11, then they win the game, whatever those numbers were. That's what's been so fun about this week. These games have been, the Grizzly game obviously was not a buzzer beater or anything, but it was the Grizzlies, great drama. And then the other games against Charlotte and against Utah and last time at Portland, these have been really entertaining games. And I don't think you win all of those games like they've won the last 3 just by luck. Sometimes you're home, the ball bounces your way, and hey, they've all been close games. So the grit the Warriors are showing, to me, it's really encouraging in terms of showing that they are showing the foundation here for building on that in the new year and really getting back into contending status again. Frankly, earlier this year, I had serious doubts as to whether they could do that without making some major changes. But it's been a really encouraging week, and it's been a lot of fun. The Warriors right now, once again, are must-see TV, JD, and must-hear radio on 95.7 The Game.
There was a desire to go get after it, I think. I think there was some urgency put on this homestand. And, one of the things that I've maintained is, and we talked about it a lot this week in the afternoon show, is the fact that if the Warriors are going to get to a point where we all believe they can win a championship, and I understand some people are there just because they're the Warriors and they're the defending champs, but to me they're going to show it at some point. Like, we're going to see it. Like, it's not going to be what it's been up until this point, where it's a game or two over 500, game or two under, injury here, get healthy there, make a little run, then struggle. Like, if you do that the whole year and end up 41-41, you're not winning it. Mm-hmm. You're just not. You're not winning it. And there at times had been some urgency. I thought there was some urgency after the Warriors fell to 3-7, and they were able to, as you look at this season, go 10-4 after that. And then the injuries came, and they went 2-7. So we're really in the fourth, I think, segment of this Warrior season. The 3-7 at the beginning, then they had the 10-4, which got them to 13-11. Then the 2-7, which culminated in the horrible end of the road trip and the blowout losses in New York. They come home 15-18, and now they're 4-0 at home to get to 19-18. But I just keep coming back to the fact that Draymond and Klay, I feel like, have put the onus on, you know what, these games matter right now.
Right.
And the Warriors have played like they matter. Like, you can't continue to play these games as if they don't matter and then tell me that you're going to win a championship when you've done nothing to show with this current team that you're going to do it. The Warriors are starting to, even shorthanded, by giving a damn about the regular season and winning these games. They are showing me here they've got what it may take in the tank to get a 6 seed or to get a 5 or a 4 seed by the time it's all said and done. And it's the first time they've really shown that level of commitment, care, and life.
Yeah, you're right. I know there were times this year when you were irritated by the fact that they seemed more than willing to punt some of these games, and now they're playing with the urgency that you like to see. As a public service announcement, JD, if I may, I hope you'll allow me to read a text here from the 415. Sure. Yeah, y'all just hit the idiot moron meter by mentioning Kuzma and your trade scenarios from the Twilight Zone. Beam me up. There's no intelligent life on 95.7. Well, I mention this because it's very important here on New Year's Eve. Don't drink and text. That's one of the worst texts I've ever seen in my whole life. We mentioned Kuzma, who's a good player. We actually did not come up with a trade scenario because JD and I both said, I don't think they could do it. So I have no idea what you think you're listening to. You may be hallucinating. You need to stay home. It's time to get off the bottle. And it's a good reminder for all of us, JD. Take it easy, celebrate reasonably here.
Responsibly, right?
That's the word. And text responsibly.
You're an idiot and you don't know baseball.
As well, because you really demeaned all of us by sending us that text. But other than that, Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year.
Yes.
no question. Yeah, and look, it's we like the player in Kuzma, but it doesn't seem like there would be a trade fit. And that's really what it comes down to. Because it's all interconnected. And the interesting part is if the Warriors are not playing well, then there seems to be from a certain portion of the fan base, Warriors are not playing well. You got to go make a trade. You got to go make a trade. You got to add. You got to fix this. Got to try to make a run. The irony in this whole thing is, as the young players start to play better and impact winning more, as the Warriors start to take these games a little bit more seriously, even shorthanded, the better they play, in a weird way, it makes you more willing to go make a move. Because I think that, and we've talked about the fact that I think Bob Myers, when he said, we got to figure out the next month what we can do. Do we need to go do something? To me, that was a statement of this team has to be good enough to make it worth it to even consider making a move.
Right.
And they weren't doing that at all, over the last month. But the other part of it is the better they play, you're more willing to make a move, but you're also less apt to want to make a move because the players that are helping you improve are the players that maybe you want to keep. It's always been about, for the young guys, it's always been about, can they become role players now to allow them enough time to develop into better than role players later on down the line. And for the first time this season, it feels like, okay, the young players are maybe capable of becoming solid role players.
That's a great point, because it wasn't that long ago. It seems like a lifetime ago, but it was 4 games ago, whatever. And I know a lot of people were calling and texting, and I totally understand it, and they still will. And there's something to be said for it, but people saying you got to play the young guys. And I was saying, JD, be careful what you wish for, because if they keep playing like this, the young guys are going to play a lot, and they're going to lose a lot of games. And here we are. The team has played better. I want to ask you, and I admit, I've been saying all season long, they're going to have to make a move. They're going to have to make a move. I still think they could benefit from that if they make the right move, but I don't feel that same sense of urgency. To what extent do you feel like, with the roster they have this year, sure, everyone would love to upgrade, but with this roster, can they compete for a title? I would have told you 2 weeks ago, nope, they can't. Now I'd have to admit, I don't know. Perhaps, but to what extent do you think with this roster, again, if you can upgrade, you do, but with this roster, can they compete for a championship?
I think we're getting closer to being able to say that. I do need to see more than even them doing it on the road.
Yeah.
I need to see what it looks like once they get healthy, because that's going to determine who, as the roles adjust, that's going to determine whether Kuminga really can fit his game into a box with Wiggins playing and him playing potentially less minutes because Wiggins is back. And so I need to see what it looks like with everybody and how they map out who the fifth is in the finishing group of games. Like I need to see, I need to see Steph and Klay with Wiggins and Draymond and Ludi, and then I need to see Poole and DiVincenzo and Kuminga as the 6, 7, 8, and who's the 9, and maybe the 10 in the regular season. And I need to see, can that group with established roles continue this run when they get healthy? So I still need to see that. Part of that will be they're going to have to win on the road to make it happen, but we still haven't seen what the playoff type rotation would look like, even in an audition manner for the regular season. And I got to see that to know. So hopefully we do get a chance to see that here in the next month plus before the trade deadline.
Yeah, I'm with you, JD. It wasn't on my radar before. Now it's on the edge, but it is. It's a blip way out there on the edge of my radar, but it is on my radar.
All right, he's Whitey Gleason. I'm John Dickinson. 2 hours in the books. We got a final hour straight ahead here, man. We're flying along. Joe in San Francisco will get to you. Phone line's open. Text line open. 888-957-9570. It's Warriors This Week on 95.7 The Game.
I bet you folks are glad to be done with your shopping. Hopefully, all your gifts went well. But there's one last store to visit, this time just for yourself. Your chance to get one of the top-rated Samsung, LG, or Sony TVs at a crazy low price. Where? At Video Only's year-end clearance sale. A great way to end the year. If you don't check out these deals at Video Only, you'll be sorry.
Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today. 1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars.
highest receipts ever. Don't miss out for 2022. Donate at carsforkids.org and your car can be picked up tomorrow.
1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Hurry! It's your last chance to donate for 2022.
O'Reilly! The professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts can recommend the best products to get you ready for winter weather. Protect your vehicle with Xerox OE antifreeze and coolant and save $2 instantly. Xerox provides the exact OE-approved coolant formulations for domestic, Asian, and European vehicles. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts today.
O'Reilly Auto Parts. If you own a business, this has been a bumpy ride. From pandemic to inflation, I'm sure you could use a break. If your business has 5 or more employees and survived COVID, you might be eligible to receive a payroll tax refund of up to $26,000 per employee. The challenge is getting your hands on it. Hi, I'm Howard Mackler, and that's why I founded GetRefunds.com to cut through the red tape and get you that money. The team of tax attorneys we have put together are highly trained in this little-known payroll tax refund program. We do all the work, charge not a dime up front, and simply share a percentage of the cash that we get for you. Businesses of all types qualify, including those who took PPP, nonprofits, and even those that had increases in sales. We have helped return over $1 billion to businesses, and we can help your business too. Just go to GetRefunds.com and answer a few questions. This payroll tax refund is only available for a limited period of time. Don't lose out on up to $26,000 per employee. Go to GetRefunds.com. That's GetRefunds.com.
We're on a journey to make healthcare more accessible and more equitable, to treat the most complex diseases and offer hope where often there is little, to provide better care to more people across the Bay Area. We are more than a hospital, more than a university, beyond science and technology. We are the people of UCSF. UCSF Health, redefining possible.
Looking for a holiday dining experience to remember? Look no further. Officiating San Francisco's newest culinary dining adventure is now open at 680 Folsom Street in San Francisco. Visit our website at officiatsf.com to book your reservation today. That's AFICISF.com.
This is a special notice to all U.S. taxpayers. It's good news for all Americans who owe back taxes to the IRS or state and struggling to pay them back. The IRS is now making it easier to settle delinquent tax problems through a federal program called the Fresh Start Initiative. Due to the financial hardship many are facing in this current economic downturn, qualifying for this program will settle your delinquent tax problem, end all collections, and may even reduce your back taxes by up to 99%. For this free information and to see if you qualify, call the hotline at the Tax Hardship Center by dialing 800-411-6406. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes and cannot afford to pay them, there's no need to worry. You may now qualify to settle your delinquent tax problem and save thousands of dollars. To see if you qualify and to get this important free information, call 800-411-6406. 800-411-6406. That's 800-411-6406.
This is an important notice to consumers facing $10,000 or more in credit card debt, medical bills, or other unsecured debt. You may not be required to pay it all back because there are special programs now in effect that will significantly reduce the amount you will owe if you qualify. This is not bankruptcy or a debt consolidation loan. These programs, which the credit card companies like to keep secret, exist to aid American consumers struggling with overwhelming credit card debt by offering tremendous savings and real debt relief. Accredited Debt Relief has established a special hotline for you to call and learn what savings you qualify for. They've helped qualify consumers with over $1 billion in debt and are A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau. So don't wait. Get the relief you need during these hard economic times. For this free information, call the Accredited Debt Relief Hotline now. Call 800-728-8500. 800-728-8500. That's 800-728-8500.
You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM and HD1 San Francisco. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
It's just a sense of urgency. Luckily, we were at home and we were able to feed off the energy in the crowd. Just find a ways to just find it inside you, to win games and lock in and Just play together and execute down the stretch offensively, defensively, and then just find ways to win games.
Now back to Warriors This Week on 95.7 The Game.
All right, Jordan Poole there. We welcome you back in here to Warriors This Week. Final hour of the year for 2022. John Dickinson and Whitey Gleason. Busy sports weekend, of course, in the Bay Area. 49ers in Vegas tomorrow. Warriors have the weekend off, Whitey, but back in action on Monday, halfway through this homestand, is Atlanta, Detroit, Orlando, and Phoenix still to come here for the Warriors over the course of the next week, beginning on Monday. So a chance to really eke ahead here. The most the Warriors have been above 500 at any point this season, Whitey, is 13-11 plus 2. They can equal that on Monday and best it here by Wednesday.
Yeah, I'll say this. You're absolutely right. And I'll say this about Jordan Poole. Monster game last night with 41 points. And again, the Warriors need everything they can get from him. Last night, fourth quarter, he was big. And that was significant because last night he had 11 points in the fourth quarter. Truth be told, that fourth quarter of that Jazz game, he didn't play very well. He had a couple turnovers. He was 2 for 7, 1 for 5. That was in the fourth quarter of the Jazz game. But they overcame that. They won that game. He had a big fourth quarter last night. Jordan Poole's playing great right now. And to a degree, he reflects what's going on with the Warriors because they are a little mercurial. They're hot, and then they're cold. They have a great first quarter. In the second quarter, what happened? So he's reflecting to a degree what's going on with him. So is, I think, Kuminga, because they've got the young players who are finding their way, and they have their moments of brilliance. At the same time, they have their other moments where, wow, does he belong on the floor right now? So the Warriors are doing this while they're figuring a lot of different things out, but it's coming together in very exciting and entertaining fashion. Also, DiVincenzo, I think in some ways, represents where the Warriors are right now, where he's just doing it with grit. And to me, that's the most significant thing about the games this week, that they were gritty. They won with defense in the fourth quarter, and it was a matter of being shorthanded, finding a way to win, and champions do that.
No doubt. Champions do that. And again, what remains to be seen as we look ahead here is how much of what the Warriors have, how they've done it, translates back into when you get everybody back. Obviously, it's a great problem to have to get Steph Curry and Andrew Wiggins. Maybe if not your two best players, of course, Steph is the Warriors' best player. Maybe not your two best players, your best most two consistent players, I think, to this point in Steph and Wiggins, obviously. With Klay Thompson being less consistent. And I think Draymond's been, for the most part, really good this year.
Yep.
There have been a few games, I'm with you getting kicked out in Indiana. I'm with you where I even started to wonder, and we talked about it on the Philly game where he does the Philly game. What's going on here? Is this another scenario where he doesn't want to play without Steph? And he's sucked it up, frankly, since then. And he was out there when they were getting their ass kicked in New York. He was out there for the win against Toronto, and he's been out there every night pushing through here on this homestand. And again, I think setting a tone that these games matter for the Warriors, even in late December and progressing here to early January.
Yeah, real quick, JD, we know that sometimes a block shot can be kind of eye candy. You know, everyone goes, ooh, but a lot of times it's like, that's fine, but we still get the ball. But Draymond against Utah, he had 3 blocks, and at least 2 of those were really significant blocks. They were big-time block shots. So, yeah, in addition to everything else he's doing, I mean, he's playing some big-time defense this week. And, again, he's doing it, I think this is very important to mention, with a bad toe. He's doing it when he's hurt, and that's setting the bar for the rest of the team. Draymond, veteran, he's doing this when he's hurt at this time of year, so we all got to do the same thing and give the same amount of effort. Good for him. It's great leadership.
888-957-9570. Let's get back to the phones with Joe in San Francisco here on 95.7 The Game. Hey, Joe.
Hey, Happy New Year, guys. I just want to thank you for another year of fantastic radio. This, by far, is the best show on 95.7. And since work from home COVID, I listen all the time. Great show. I'm fascinated by this Bob Myers thing here. He may want to do something new with his life. He may want to take a new responsibility. He may want to get paid a lot of money. He may want to take some time off. I just wonder, though, if there is some nepotism going on here. No parent is beyond the tug of nepotism, but Kirk Lacob is the assistant GM, and I'll just flat out say I wonder if Joe wants Kirk to run that, to take over because he thinks he's ready. We know that Joe he's always wanted a big. He's gone after bigs in the past, and every time Joe has talked about Wiseman, he's talked about him. Kirk Lacob has gushed about him. Wonder if that is possible. One of the issues that a struggle about the direction of the franchise and players. But could you talk about that? I mean, I don't know if you've ever talked to Kirk Lacob. Do you see him as the ambitious type? It's not like he's going to go take a new job at a different team. He's going to be with the Warriors, and I'm just wondering if Joe thinks Kirk is ready to take the job.
Yeah, thanks for the call. I'm not sure about that. I do think he'd love for him to have the job at some point someday and be, does he feel now's the time or capable? I don't really have a good feel for that. Other than, Kirk is a pretty sharp guy, intelligent, but I don't really have a great feel for the timeline basically there. I know he's relatively young. He's in his 30s, so it's just, if it's not now, it could be really at any point that he ultimately could help take over. I just think that there's more to it than just Joe wants his son to take it over and feels that it's time and the next wave and all of that. I do know that the Lacob contingent is probably the biggest fans in the Warriors regime of James Wiseman. I think that is accurate, but there've been a lot of different opinions from a lot of different folks over the years that have all been welcomed and chewed on and debated. And so while I do think it's fair to question, and if Kirk Lacob did wind up being the person in charge, I think that would be fair to evaluate accordingly. I just don't know if that's necessarily, that could be part of it, but I feel like if there was some problems there, we would have kind of known about it already. In that vein of somebody maybe being disrespectful or unready or unqualified or something like that. Like, I feel like if that was really an issue over the last decade, let's say, we would have heard more about it being a problem with all of the high-level people that the Warriors have employed that have been abundantly qualified based on what they've done in other areas of the NBA.
Joe, I think all the questions you asked are fair questions, but it would not be fair for us really to even try to answer some of them. We just don't know. We really don't know. I think what we do know is that Joe Lacob is going to do what he believes is best for the franchise. He's going to do what he thinks gives the franchise the best opportunity to continue to win. I think we know that. We don't. Bob Myers may have actually already had an offer maybe he didn't. We just don't know about that. So again, fair questions, not dodging them. We don't know. We may get the answers to some of those questions going forward. Thank you for listening, and thank you also for the kind words. And I'm glad you said that and you enjoy the show. I just want to say this is, and I love being on the show. This is JD's show, and he has made me so welcome here, and I appreciate that he's made me a part of this. JD covers the Warriors like very few people with the amount of dedication and energy. Very few people, I think, even in this market do. I'm thrilled to be a part of this with JD. Joe, I'm thrilled that people like you listen to the show and like it. So thank you for that. And thank you, JD, and Happy New Year to everybody who listens to Warriors This Week.
Yeah, and Happy New Year to you as well. Looking forward to it. And look, we don't know how long this thing's going to go as far as the Warriors run, but the one thing we know is we're going to be on right up until it ends at some point. Yeah. And last year that was me barely being able to talk without coughing up a lung in Boston, going back and forth after
the Warriors
after
are
Game
champions.
6.
You're like that old. I don't know if you remember Johnny Most. If you've heard of him,
Most,
the Warriors are champions from Boston. John Dickinson. Yeah, but you got it done.
If that's what it winds up being come the middle of June again, then that's what it winds up being.
Yes.
In the middle of June, again, me in the lobby of the hotel restaurant with all my equipment set up and talking to you guys back here in the States. It was a lot of fun, and yeah, I mean, I'm thrilled that you're a part of this show as well. We have a good time with it, and we'll see what happens. I still tend to think on the Bob Myers thing that it's a little bit more about Bob Myers than meets the eye. That it's not as cut and dry as, well, Joe hasn't given him a good enough offer, and or Joe's disrespecting him in this or that way. I could see Bob, as I've said to you a couple weeks ago, maybe believing that the time to walk away was a couple of years ago, and then not wanting to have that maybe come off as a bad look, like he was jumping ship when things were down. Well, he stuck with it, not knowing if they would get better or not. And they did. They won another championship. They're left with the cupboard full of these young prospects that have the potential to be good players. And I could see Bob saying, hey, man, that fourth one is just the cherry on top. And, I love being here, but it's time to maybe take a break, spend some more time around family, and see what the next challenge is going to be.
That would make sense, too. Here's an interesting question on the text line that relates to all this. JD Whitey, who do you think nudged Woj to write that article about Myers? I think that's a great question to always ask yourself when you're reading just about any piece of sports journalism now. It's like, did someone leak that? I don't think anyone leaked that, because I don't think the story that Woj presented, I don't think it favored one side or the other. That's what you have to consider. If if a story, whatever it's about, if it's like gives the view that this person is in the right and this team or whoever's in the wrong, then you have an idea where it came from. I didn't think that was biased one way or the other. So my guess, JD, would be that was just a matter of Woj finding that out and realizing, well, that's kind of interesting. So he just put it out there. But I don't think anyone leaked that for their own purposes. I really don't.
No, because it would, to your point, I think if it would have been Joe Lacob hasn't offered him a contract.
Yeah,
or
right.
Bob Myers has declined the initial offer from and so, it was more just informational and really my thought. And look, I don't think it's nothing, because I think he clearly could be leaving at the end of the year. So I'm not saying that it's like a non-story or anything like that, but I also think it a little bit of it is, hey, it's the ABC Saturday Night Showcase game. It's the Warriors and the Celtics. Woj is a big part of that ESPN ABC production. I got to dig up something. I got to get something, even if it's something simple and basic.
Yeah.
And to me, that could be as benign as just Woj asking Joe Lacob or Bob Myers, somebody in the organization, hey, where do things stand? I just happen to know that Bob's contract's up. Where do things stand? And so that becomes the news in and of itself. But it has been fascinating, Whitey, over the last couple of weeks. Anytime this topic has come up, there is this angst about, well, you can't let him go. But again, the one thing I keep coming back to is I don't necessarily know that it's a matter of wanting to let him go. Like I feel like it's also a scenario where, maybe there isn't an amount of money where Bob would be like, I'm good, either. Like, we don't know that, and I certainly wouldn't want to speculate on it, but it's not always the answer to a lot of these questions, Whitey, isn't always, well, just offer him more money, he'll stay.
Well, it's a great point you raised. If you put yourself in Bob Myers' shoes and you look at this, and, you can say this about the coach, the owners, anybody, we have no idea what they've been through to get to this point. Whether it's, getting the arena built or just coaching the team or whatever it is, we have no idea what he's been through to get to this point. And then they won that championship last year and his contract happens to be expiring. Yeah, it's a great opportunity to say, okay, do I want to keep doing this? When there's a chance, at some point, if I sign on for a few more years, this might start to come apart. I might actually have to have a hand in taking it apart, or I could get out now when we're relatively on top. So, yeah, there would be a strong pull there for a guy like Bob Myers, who we think is, all things considered, a pretty balanced person in terms of life, work. So that would make as much sense as anything else going forward.
Yeah, would you want to be the guy that trades Draymond Green or tells Klay Thompson we're not paying you anymore?
Nope.
I mean, like that's a great point. No, that really is, and one that I hadn't necessarily considered. 888-957-9570. Back to the phones we go with Fred in Oakland here on 95.7 The Game. What's going on, Fred?
Hey, how's it going, gentlemen? Happy New Year's, and looking forward to you guys' show for the new year with the Warriors and whatever turns out with them in terms of hopefully another championship. I wanted to mention or just kind of talk about DiVincenzo, the underlining motivation. I don't know if this was brought up before, but the fact that GP2 was in the house yesterday, and at the beginning of the season, there was a lot of talk about GP2 not being with the Warriors anymore and who was going to fill that void, and nobody was going to bring that kind of intensity on defense that he did. And I think that might have been some motivation for DiVincenzo, the fact that now he's with the Warriors and stepping up his game and all that. It was great to see GP2 get his ring. But I kind of wonder, I kind of feel like there's some underlying motivation for DiVincenzo as well as just him learning the system now a little bit better and stepping up. And I just want to know what you guys thought about that.
Yeah, I think there could be something to that. I know DiVincenzo is highly motivated by the fact that he's going to want a bigger contract than the one that he got this year as still a young player. And I think he's the kind of player that impacts winning at a level to where a lot of teams are going to want him. If he stays healthy and plays as well as he has for the Warriors, I think there's going to be a lot of teams that are going to want to sign him to a 3-4 year contract at this point, being a 25-year-old player, and that it's going to really work out beneficially for him in this thing. I think that's the motivation above all. Side note to that, it was nice to see Gary Payton II get his ring and have Draymond be able to present it, and the video tribute. It was all very, very cool last night.
Yeah, I think you're right. DiVincenzo's very motivated this year because, as I said earlier, the Bucks basically decided, we like you, but we like Grayson Allen more. Sacramento decided we like you, but there's other guys we like more. So he's really not only trying to prove his worth to other teams, but prove that, hey, I'm the guy that the Bucks thought so highly of in the first place. So he's very motivated, I think, more by that than by Peyton being there last night. I mean, maybe you're right, Fred, but don't forget, DiVincenzo actually put up better numbers against the Jazz than he did last night. Against the Jazz this week, I mean, he had 19 points and he had 2 assists and 4 rebounds. So he's just having a good week. It wasn't a matter of he's been okay and then, there's Gary Payton. He played great. But someone on the text line asked a question as we were talking about adding players, and someone said, well, with this system, isn't it really hard to add a new player? It depends on the player. And my point is DiVincenzo is one of those guys who has the type of game where you could look at that and go, you know what? He can play our type of basketball. And I think he deserves a ton of credit for that. He's also made himself not only part of the system, but he's been a leader, where he talked a few weeks ago about we need to get back to playing Warrior-style basketball. Well, he just got here, and yet he knows what that is. So DiVincenzo's been a great player this year. I don't know if he's going to be around next year, but he's been a huge part. Him stepping forward this week has been a huge part of this winning streak, and he's just a really good player, very versatile, who's given the Warriors a lot of what they need right now.
Yeah, he's the kind of player where he just fits.
Yeah,
and I think the reason it took 35 games, let's say, to realize that he fits was because he missed a good chunk of the first 10. And I think with more opportunity, this is the other part of it for me on him is he's the kind of player that he is young enough to where he can go from role player to needing to have a much bigger role and even be a starter with with players injured and be able to still have an impact. Like, that's the thing to me is like, he's capable of actually stepping in and starting, and you can win some games with him. And that to me is a whole different kind of a bench player and really a quality type bench player that the Warriors for the most part haven't really had. I mean, Jordan Poole is that kind of player, at least proving himself to be that kind of player where he can be a bench player, but you put him in for a chunk like he did last year at the beginning, a chunk of starts, and you can win. And so I think that's a reason to feel really good about DiVincenzo. Again, the only downside to DiVincenzo is he's probably going to be a 1-year and done guy with the Warriors in all likelihood, unless they're going to be willing to pay him over the course of the next 4 or 5 years.
I saw something interesting today. I tweeted this, but as I was looking at DiVincenzo, because I knew we'd be talking about him today, so I was looking at all of his numbers, and I found Basketball Reference not to get too wonky on this, but Basketball Reference has a number of analytics and stats, and they have something called a similarity score. Baseball Reference has this too. So you have a guy, then you have his value established through various statistical means, then you have players who are most similar to him. And so DiVincenzo, for his career, the NBA player all time who's most similar to DiVincenzo in terms of his career value is Kalena Azubuike. I just thought, wow, that's kind of funny. How about that? Yeah.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So not a comp necessarily as a player, but just a value for impact.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, basically, yeah. It gives you overall about as valuable. And I'm sure the way they do it has something to do with it too. But yeah, that surprised me when I saw it. I was like, wow, that's curious. Yeah.
Gene in Oakland, 888-957-9570. What's going on, Gene?
Hey, fellas. So, being the end of the year, I just want to quickly take this opportunity to thank you guys and all the rest of the 95-7 team for another great year of opportunity for me to share my passion for sports with you fellas. Coming up on 77 pretty soon, but you guys have all helped me stay young in spirit, if not necessarily in body. So, once again, thanks a lot. Looking forward to another fun year with all of you.
Thanks, Gene.
So,
yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah. Oh, do we have more? Did you have more, Gene?
No, go ahead, Gene. Yeah, go ahead, Gene. Finish up.
Yeah, I do. If you don't mind. Yeah, I wanted to say something about the Warriors. My sense of the Warriors at this point is, first of all, I'm feeling very, very confident. I really do think they've turned the corner. I think they've struggled in the beginning of the year for a number of reasons. They're obviously I think Kerr in particular expected the kids to come around a little faster than they have, but they finally are starting to come around. The new guys, they took a while for them to get comfortable with the system, and now they are. And as far as winning on the road, which is the next big challenge, to me that's just a matter of confidence. To have such a great record at home and such a miserable one on the road, to me just points to particularly the young guys just not feeling confident enough on the road. But the way they're playing now, the way they're coming back and winning games like last night, without Wiggins and Curry, I think that's going to propel them to start winning on the road. And I'm looking forward to the second half. I think it's going to be a really good second half.
Thanks, Gene.
Thank you, Gene.
Excellent phone call. I think a lot of the road stuff it could be attributed to the inexperience in the youth and the fact that, typically role players, even veteran role players, don't necessarily play as well on the road.
Yeah, and I know Steve Kerr after that, was that – I was going to say rock bottom was that Phoenix game. You could make the case, the New York games in Brooklyn, that was rock bottom. But that was a humiliating loss to the Suns when, Klay lost his composure. And I know after that game, Steve Kerr talked about, how do you get back to where people think you should be? We've got to defend better. It's the same things. And I know he keeps saying it, but it's true. There's a simplicity to it. There's no mystery. What do you need to do? You need to defend better and need to stop turning the ball over so much and need to defend without fouling. And if they do those things, and they're doing them now, you should be able to do those on the road as well. And if you do those things on the road and take care of the ball better and don't foul as much and don't send the team to the foul line, you're going to win road games. So, there's nothing magical that happens when all of a sudden, we're on the road, now what? So I think a lot of these things should be translating as long as they continue to take care of those fundamental issues, which for some reason there are always issues with these Warriors. Over the years, they've always been issues. Then that is going to translate onto the road.
All right, final segment straight ahead for 2022. 888-957-9570. We'll come back and we'll polish this one off here at 95.7 The Game.
I bet you folks are glad to be done with your shopping. Hopefully, all your gifts went well. But there's one last store to visit, this time just for yourself. Your chance to get one of the top-rated Samsung, LG, or Sony TVs at a crazy low price. Where? At Video Only's year-end clearance sale. A great way to end the year. If you don't check out these deals at Video Only, you'll be sorry.
Hi, welcome to IKEA and our winter sale. Hi. We've got hundreds of offers on everything from storage solutions to...
I'm sorry, did you say hundreds?
Yes.
I'm still working from home. Anything to help me get organized?
Absolutely. Check out our offers on shelving and desks.
Ooh,
What about mattresses? Yep, those too.
Dressers? Sofas?
Yes, and yes.
I think I need a bigger cart.
Visit us at ikea-usa.com/offers for details. Offer dates may vary. U.S. only while supplies last. Selection may vary by store and online. See store and ikea-usa.com/offers for complete terms. Restrictions apply. Did you know Nissan EVs have traveled 8 billion miles? Just a quick trip to Pluto and back. And what did we learn along the way? Well, that an EV can take on the world, like the Nissan Leaf. It can move racing forward and take your breath away, like the all-new Nissan Ariya. We learned to make EVs that electrify. 8 billion miles driven by Leaf owners globally since 2010. Ariya not yet available for purchase. Expected availability late fall, subject to change.
Investing is confusing. Dawn raids, triple witching hour, candlesticks, crown jewels, bears, bulls, bear hugs, blue chips. It's one big word salad of uncertainty. Fortunately, Fremont Bank now has incredible rates on their savings accounts and CDs. And while savings accounts and CDs may not be known for their great rates at your current bank, at Fremont Bank, you can get great rates from a great local bank. To learn more, stop in or visit us online. We'll explain it all in plain language. Fremont Bank, serving the Bay Area since 1964. Member FDIC. Join us at Odyssey as we all do our one thing, together millions of things for our planet. Avoid giving useless knickknacks this holiday season and look for durable items that will last for years. When we each share our one thing, it becomes a million things for our planet. What's your one thing?
My milkshake brings all the boys to the yard and they're like, it's better than yours.
Spilled your milkshake? Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up spills quicker. And each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less than the leading Ordinary brand. So you can get back to your milkshake.
My milkshake brings all the boys to the yard and they're like, it's better than yours.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
So I switched to Boost Mobile and got this free Samsung Galaxy A23 5G phone.
Why do you think they call it the Galaxy?
Maybe because the Samsung Galaxy A23 has a huge screen, and galaxies are huge gravitationally bound systems of stars rotating around a supermassive black hole.
And the phone is free?
When you switch to Boost Mobile.
Cool. You lost me at gravitationally bound.
Switch to Boost and get a free Samsung Galaxy A23 5G phone. Boost Mobile. Unleash your power. Limited time offer while supplies last. New customers only. Excludes tax. 1 device offer per line. Only available on certain networks. 5G not available everywhere. Additional restrictions apply. See your local Boost Mobile store for details.
This is Staples.
So rumor has it that Staples has everything I need to ship.
Mm-hmm. We have all the shipping supplies and services you need.
Boxes?
Yep.
Mailers?
Yeah, and we have UPS here in store.
Huh. What will Staples think of next?
Right?
No, seriously, I'm asking, what will they think of next?
Staples is your one-stop shipping destination. Now get 50% off shipping boxes, mailers, or tubes when you buy 5 of the same item in-store or online with 1-hour pickup. Staples, the best-kept secret in shipping. Ends 12/31. Exclusions apply. Visit staplesconnect.com/shipping for details.
Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information. Subscription required.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same but is 90% cheaper? And you can get it online? Go to 4hims.com/joy. At Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation and discreet shipping if prescribed. You'll love your results. To start your free online visit, go to 4hims.com/joy. That's FORHIMS.com/JOY.
If you own a business, this has been a bumpy ride. From pandemic to inflation, I'm sure you could use a break. If your business has 5 or more employees and survived COVID, you might be eligible to receive a payroll tax refund of up to $26,000 per employee. The challenge is getting your hands on it. Hi, I'm Howard Mackler, and that's why I founded GetRefunds.com to cut through the red tape and get you that money. The team of tax attorneys we have put together are highly trained in this little-known payroll tax refund program. We do all the work, charge not a dime up front, and simply share a percentage of the cash that we get for you. Businesses of all types qualify, including those who took PPP, nonprofits, and even those that had increases in sales. We have helped return over $1 billion to businesses, and we can help your business too. Just go to GetRefunds.com and answer a few questions. This payroll tax refund is only available for a limited period of time. Don't lose out on up to $26,000 per employee. Go to GetRefunds.com. That's GetRefunds.com.
Are you kidding me? Gas prices are up again? Somebody has to do something.
Well, someone did. That's why I use Upside.
Upside? What's that?
It's a free app that pays you back real money for every gallon of gas or diesel you buy. I just earned 25 cents back on every gallon of this tank.
Hold on. So the Upside app is free and you actually get cash back every time you use it? No strings attached?
Yep, it's awesome. Check it out. It only takes a couple of minutes to sign up.
Instead of just watching your dollars go into your tank, start putting money back into your wallet with the free app from Upside. With the price of gas today, it's big news and big money. To cash out of your Upside cash, just transfer it to your bank account, PayPal, or a gift card. Upside users have already earned over $200 million. Now it's your turn. Download the free Upside app and get cash back on every gallon of gas. Use promo code GOLF for an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first fill-up. That's code GOLF. Use code GOLF for an extra 25 cents per gallon back in your first fill-up. Cashback's not available in gas in New Jersey and Wisconsin.
Every night is somebody different, and I think that's the key. Like I said, when you're missing the production that we're missing, you're not just going to find one guy and you're going to say, oh man, you're going to do it every night and bring what Steph is bringing and bring what it's just not going to happen.
Now back to Warriors This Week on 95.7 The Game.
Draymond Green meeting with the media postgame last night as the Warriors beat the Blazers 118-112, big fourth quarter, 16-2 run, Whitey, over the final 5-10. And the Warriors putting the clamps down and getting production from a lot of different areas. Last night, though, it was the starting guard unit. It was you get 72 from your starting backcourt, and you're going to win a lot of games. There's been nights, though, where Kuminga's pitched in. DiVincenzo, you alluded to, against Utah with the 19 points. It's coming from a lot of different places because it has to right now. No question about it.
Yeah, 72 points on, 45 shots, which works. 12 of 25 from the three-point line for those two guys. But what Draymond just described there, what he's talking about is strength in numbers. So, again, it's just so encouraging for the Warriors. It's a reflection that the system works because we know that it's more than a slogan. The Warriors were built on strength in numbers and that idea, that concept, severely tested. You're sorely tested when you have two starters out, and this week they've been coming through.
Let's go to sophomore in Pacifica next here at 888-957-9570. What's up, sophomore?
Hey, gentlemen. First of all, thank you for the good year of broadcasting. Really great to the Warriors are very smart about basketball, and you guys have been thoughtful and positive the whole time. Even on things like yesterday, the quarterback controversy for the 49ers, like, hey, they're all good. All three of them probably have a future, probably not all three here. I've really enjoyed that. And a question for each of you. Do we see the pieces of the post-Curry Warriors falling into place that produces a continued dynasty, or maybe it would be a new dynasty? I don't really think so, because the Warriors have a unique style. A coach who lives movement basketball and the three-pointer, did it as a player, came in with, the core several players that we have now, the championship core, kind of ready for that system. So it was a unique match of the people and what they all brought to it, and here we see the results. I don't really see that style continuing if I look at like Kuminga and Wiseman and JP, as maybe the new core, and being optimistic about Wiseman reaching his potential. You have to squint pretty hard right now, but we can be hopeful. But I don't see that being the current Warriors style of basketball or any really distinctive style of basketball. It seems to be that group would be they'd be a good team, but not incredible, outstanding, unique. So some thoughts as I see it. What do you guys think?
Yeah, thanks for the call, sophomore. At this point, while it's too early to know for sure, I would say probably not. Like it's probably not. We haven't seen enough from any of these players to think that they can be standalone all-stars, let alone future Hall of Famers. Now, doesn't mean it can't happen, Whitey, but I think to this point we have not seen it, and the skill sets are different, and it's not something that you have to put a rush on having see it. But even the things we've talked about as far as the young players contributing most recently has been more about them as role players than bursting out as stars. What I would want to see to answer that question differently, Whitey, would be if and I don't put Jordan Poole, like Jordan Poole can score. Like I don't even consider Jordan Poole a young guy in that instance, although I guess he is part of the second timeline in addition to being part of this timeline. But as far as like Kuminga, Wiseman, Moody, Patrick Baldwin Jr., it's unfair probably to even include him in it at this point. But no, we haven't seen enough to think, oh yeah, there's 3-4 future All-Stars on this team that are all going to carry their own weight to a 50-win team, let alone a championship team, let alone be future Hall of Famers. I don't want to write anybody off or cut anybody short before they get a chance to play out their careers. But nah, as far as I'm concerned, Whitey, like we haven't seen it, and that's okay, because it would be kind of silly to this point if we had seen it.
I think the answer to Sophomore's question is the odds are against those pieces falling into place here. Do the Warriors have the pieces that they can put into place to be the foundation for the next dynasty? The odds are really against that, because the odds are always really against that. They're always against any team doing that because it's so hard to do. There's also this you have to consider. When Steve Kerr came in, he inherited Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, and they brought the dribble drive motion or 4-out, 1-in system, and it was a great fit for the talent they had there already. We didn't know how good those two guys were going to be, but we didn't know Steph was going to be that he was going to be the greatest shooter of all time. So it was just there was some good fortune involved. They recognized that, hey, we're going to run this system, and then they got Draymond in the draft, and he's a perfect fit for that as well. So you have 3 future Hall of Famers, 2 you had already, and then you had Draymond, and he fit so perfectly into what you were doing. An aggressive front office, you find the other pieces. So it's really hard to replace guys like that. You see this, the Bulls kind of went through the same thing in a way. Jerry Krause thought that, I built this team with Jordan and Pippen, and when they go, we'll just do it again. No, you just can't, because when you get those guys, you deserve credit for getting them, but they're not. You just can't replace them. So the guys like Curry and Draymond and Klay, when they're gone, whenever that is, they're really hard to replace. But I will say this. I mean, you look at how successful the Warriors have been in recent seasons, and then they've done a great job getting as much young talent as they have for a team that's been that successful. Because, the way the draft is set up, it's really hard when you're having success to get young talent. For a team that's won multiple championships, to have guys like Kuminga and Moody and Poole and Wiseman, they've done a really good job. Now, does that mean, there's a foundation for our future dynasty? That's just a really tall order, so probably not, but they've done a good job despite the success they've been having assembling the young talent that they currently have to look forward to.
Yeah, and look, I mean, that doesn't mean that you don't have, a piece or two that can be a future all-star. I mean, I think the example, and I think Steiny maybe brought this up a couple of weeks back.
Yeah.
Oh, what you got? I think he mentioned Denver. And that Denver has Jokic, and Denver has Murray, and Denver has Michael Porter Jr. And that's a young core of 3 players that are all really good players. And Jokic is a 2-time MVP, maybe a 3-time MVP by the time it's all said and done. Just a terrific, terrific player. Murray obviously coming off of the ACL that he had back almost 2 years ago in San Francisco at Chase. Porter's had his own injury concerns. The point, though, is that's a really good young core, right? 3, that's a good young big 3, if you will. And they've been together now for 3 or 4 years, basically. And they've had varying degrees of all-star, and like I said, Jokic with the MVP, and they still haven't really sniffed the championship.
Right.
They've won a bunch of games, they've won playoff series, they've lost playoff series. They went on their run in the bubble, but didn't get to the final. And so they were a 6 seed last year, and it's like that's if you're so what I'm saying, you could tell me that, and I'm not making this case specifically, but just for fun, I'm saying you could tell me Wiseman's going to be Jokic and Kuminga's going to be Michael Porter Jr. and Moody's going to be Jamal Murray, and talented type players. And that still doesn't. You still might be a team that's a first round out or a second round out.
You're right. And
we don't know that they're going to be those players because they're not even close to being those players yet.
Yeah, it reminds me, JD. Pardon me for referencing Sacramento again, but we both have backgrounds there.
They're playing well.
When Vlade and Weber left, and what the Kings do? Oh, we're going to replace them with Jason Thompson and Spencer Hawes. It's like, okay, well, that's nice. You just don't replace. And those guys, Weber and Vlade are not as good as the group we're talking about here with the Warriors. So it's great that the Warriors have been so aggressive in trying to prepare for the inevitable departure of these guys. But the notion that, oh, yeah, you plug them in. I mean, dynasty, no, you're probably not going to have another dynasty because they're so hard. So we need to, that's why, again, getting back to what the Warriors need to do, they need to do everything possible to keep that window open as it's open now. Everything possible to take another shot this year. If you have a shot at winning another championship this year, got to do everything within reason to increase your chances to do that because it's so rare that you have a shot at that.
Just look at the most recent dynasties. If just the last 40 years, let's say, right? If the Celtics won 3 titles in the 80s, the Lakers won 5 titles in the 80s.
Spurs.
The Lakers didn't have another dynasty. They didn't have a dynasty off of the Magic worthy Kareem dynasty. They didn't. Now they did have one a decade after that one ended.
Yes.
But it was not connected to the first one. So it's to your point on that, the Celtics win a bunch in the 80s. They haven't had a dynasty since. The Bulls have not had a dynasty since. The Spurs are finding right now. All right, you won 5 titles in 18 years or whatever it was, 15 years, and then we're pretty good for another couple off of that. But they have the worst roster in the NBA right now. So dynasties don't typically roll from one to the next. And when franchises are able to have multiple dynasties, as the Lakers and the Celtics have throughout the years, it's often decades separating them.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. The Spurs now apparently all in on Wembanyama because it's not culture, it takes the talent. And the Warriors have the talent now. They're very fortunate to assemble that, and they're still maximizing the opportunities that young Hall of Fame core, well, they're not young anymore, but that Hall of Fame core is providing.
Well, it worked for them before. Tanking and trying to get a franchise player. It worked for him before. I mean, hell, it made Greg Popovich's career, to be honest. I mean, Greg Popovich was an interim head coach and a failing general manager at the point in which he tanked to get Tim Duncan. And he was not that highly thought of. He's kind of a Nelly guy. Like, it's interesting. He was not that highly thought of. And then now it's, he goes down as, maybe the greatest coach in NBA history. Moose in San Jose is next here on Warriors This Week. What's up, Moose?
Hey, good afternoon, fellas. I just wanted to say, I wanted to quickly jump on the last comment. It's just so tough to piggyback into another dynasty, and it's just completely unlikely. You need, I think, best case scenario, Jordan Poole, maybe Kuminga in the future become all-stars, and they end up with 50-win seasons. Second, third round trips would be great. I mean, you want to see him hit the finals again, but it's just unheard of for that to happen directly after having like 3 of the best players time for your team. But my reason for I called, I went to Chase Center for the first time ever last night. Unbelievable experience, unbelievable arena, just what they've done to that area. I mean, I remember going there 20 years ago into that space, even dating back to going to Pac-Bell Park early on, just that whole area of San Francisco, the Chase Center itself, the Thrive City, even in the rain. I mean, the whole experience was just unbelievable. That team last night, dude, that was just such a cool game. You came out hot. Klay was hitting shots. Then you tail of 2 quarters, first and second, and then go into the half, come out in the third, and Portland's kind of hitting shots, and they're staying up. And then at the end, Klay Thompson, DiVincenzo's playing hard defense. It's fun saying his name out there and having the crowd scream the way that they were. It kind of had Oracle vibes. Just a great place to be, all around great vibes playing with that, watching that team play basketball.
Thanks for the call. Yeah, it was a good crowd last night. It was a real energetic, festive, little bit of an edgy, boisterous crowd. And look, it always is at Chase, but I thought last night there was a little bit of another level to it last night. Like people were there to really try and help the team win, and we're excited.
Yeah, there's something to be said for being the underdog. Everyone loves the underdog. It's more fun to root for the underdog. And last year, the Warriors won another championship. They were kind of underdogs. When Durant was here, it was great. That was one of the greatest teams ever. But, when you're expected to win, that's one thing. So my point is, last night, I think that's one of the reasons the place was so electric. And, we know that place has been electric. Even that first year, which was dreadful, that building definitely had its moments. But with what they're doing right now without these two players, these two starters, and then, wow, and they beat the Jazz. It didn't look like they had any business being in that game. Man, they beat Portland. It's just so much fun when you can get behind a team like they're not supposed to win this game and they're winning these games. Speaking of dynasties, there should be some shelf life left in this dynasty, JD. The teams we were talking about, the Lakers, they won their first one, the Kareem Magic Lakers in 80. They won their last one in 88, and then they were in the finals again, 89, and even 91, they lost to the Bulls. The Spurs, their first one they won in 99, and their last one was 2014. So that's a long-ass dynasty that they spread out. I don't even know if that's truly a dynasty, but they spread their 5 titles out over that time. Then the Warriors, of course, won the first one in 15, and they won last year in 22. So there's every reason to think they're still going to have legitimate shots if things go well at adding to that trophy case.
And I think that the other way to look at it, Whitey, is just the fact that, well, maybe it's not going to be standalone Jordan Poole, Moses Moody, Patrick Baldwin, Jonathan Kuminga, James Wiseman. Like, maybe it's not going to be standalone with that group able to win, 50-plus games and contend for championships. But maybe, and I think this is what the Warriors truly did want anytime we talk about two timelines, is maybe it does at some point look like the Spurs did at the end, where Kawhi became a superstar, and they had other players that they had developed, and you still had Duncan and Ginobili and Parker,
right?
But so maybe one of the whether it's Kuminga eventually or Wiseman or whoever. Again, we're very far away from that being the case and coming to fruition. But maybe if one of those becomes a star that's a better player than the other three, as the other three decline with age, the other three can still help their championship with their championship guile and still being good enough players to help put them over the top. But like the Spurs in their most recent championship in 2014, Kawhi Leonard was the best player. That would be the equivalent of, let's say the Warriors just won a time. That would be the equivalent of, say, a 2027, 2026 title where Steph and Klay and Draymond are still around. Think about that. But Kuminga is his own superstar, right? Where he's now the best player. So that's another way. It doesn't necessarily have to be cut and dry. Hey, everybody's gone, and then the next group is in. The gradual way is also, I think, a possibility.
Yeah, you're right. Happy New Year. It's fun to talk about, and the rest of this homestand shaping up to be fun. Monday, as you said, Hawks, they're falling apart right now. Then you got the Pistons, and they don't even want to win. The Orlando Magic next Saturday, the 7th, so the Warriors got a score to settle with them. And then the homestand wraps up with the Phoenix Suns, or what's left of the Phoenix Suns, on Tuesday the 10th. So Warriors got a legit shot at going 8-0 in this homestand. There's a lot of juice left in this already very entertaining homestand, JD.
No, big time. And again, I think 3 of the 4 toughest games, at least on paper, coming in are behind the Warriors. In this one, again, you don't want to get ahead of yourself. I think it's important that the Warriors continue to play with the purpose that they've played with these last handful of games. There's times where they've played well. There's times where they haven't played well. But the purpose has been there for the Warriors throughout all of them, and I think that's why they've been able to win and win ugly in some of these games. So never want to take anything for granted. The Warriors lost full strength to all of these teams coming up, except Atlanta. They hadn't played Atlanta yet, but they lost full strength to Detroit,
that's right,
and Orlando, and Phoenix twice on the road. And Devin Booker's not going to play in that one. And the Suns look like they're really in a bad way. They look like they had weathered the time without Chris Paul, and then they had struggled a little bit trying to figure out how to get Paul back into the mix, which was a little odd. They're not a real deep team, talking about Phoenix. And, somebody, as you look at the standings, Pelicans looking good, Nuggets looking good, Grizzlies expected to be there. I don't think anybody's surprised. The Clippers currently are 4th, although only 21-16. Dallas is tied with the Kings at 5th right now, 20-16 for Dallas. Sacramento's had a couple of just late wins. They won by a point in both of their last 2 games. Kevin Huerter hit a big 3 last night. I think the Warriors are aiming high at that top 6. maybe for that Sacramento spot, if you swapped out Sacramento for the Warriors, I don't think anybody would be, let's say, surprised by it, and that's maybe your top 6. But if that is the way it plays out, Phoenix could wind up down in the 7, 8, 9, 10 portion of it with the Kings, Portland, and Utah. It's starting to maybe look like one of those teams that's pretty good could end up, if you factor the Warriors in that group, could end up out of that group. And again, the one outlier team currently is Sacramento, so we'll see how things shake out with them. But if I told you Phoenix was a 7 seed, that would be a little bit surprising, I think, or an 8 seed coming into this new year.
Yeah, it's so muddled there, densely packed. They're so full of parity. And, a team like, as I mentioned, there's talk that Denver is going to be very aggressive in trying to upgrade. So all those teams that have a chance to finish at the top, they're looking to see what they can do roster-wise at the deadline to maybe get a leg up on everybody. I mean, there's no reason why the Warriors can't be soon in that conversation for top spot in the West, the way things are trending, and just the way the rest of this homestand sets up. Monday, you got the holiday weekend here, and then you got Monday, the Hawks, then you got to play Wednesday again, but that's against Detroit, and you got to score to settle with them as well. So, you got a Monday and then a Wednesday game, but it's against Detroit. Then you're off until Saturday for Orlando, and then Tuesday against the Suns. So while the Warriors shorthanded right now, a little bit of an older team, the way the rest of this homestand sets up, JD, the games are spread out enough where that really shouldn't be an issue either.
No, and finish strong. I think that's got to be the name of the game into 2023 and continue the forward momentum. And it looks like Andrew Wiggins has the potential to be back on Monday night, which I think is something that, for the Warriors, we talked a lot about, hey, they're doing it without Steph. They're doing it without Steph, and they are doing it without Steph, but they're also doing it without Andrew Wiggins, which I think makes what the Warriors have been able to do all the more impressive. Whitey, I can't thank you enough for everything over the beginning of this year and obviously last year, taking over right around this time on this show when Nick Friedel left us to go cover the Brooklyn Nets. But it's been a fantastic year in 2022. All the post-game shows during the playoffs and doing this show each and every week. And I know you've been a lot lately over the holidays, as I have been during the day. And back on Monday for you, right? Monday morning.
That's
again?
right. This is one of my favorite shows. This show is one of my favorite shows I've ever done in radio. Thank you to all listeners very, very much. And thank you, most of all, JD. Happy New Year. Have fun. Hopefully you'll make it into Vegas.
Yeah, looking forward to that. I'm hopping on a plane, weather permitting, hopefully, Southwest permitting. Should be good. Looking forward to getting into Vegas. And I'll be on with Larry and Lowe tomorrow from Allegiant Stadium. I know you'll be back, as I mentioned, on Monday morning. I'm back in the afternoon on Monday, and we're going to be back together again a week from today for Warriors This Week as we take it into 2023. So thanks to Whitey, thanks to Craig Valentino. Tremendous job, as always, in the studio, and we'll talk to you next week right here on 95.7 The Game.
This is Staples.
So rumor has it that Staples has everything I need to ship.
We have all the shipping supplies and services you need.
Boxes?
Yep.
Mailers?
Yeah, and we have UPS here in store.
Huh. What will Staples think of next?
Right?
No, seriously, I'm asking, what will they think of next?
Staples is your one-stop shipping destination. Now get 50% off shipping boxes, mailers, or tubes when you buy 5 of the same item in-store or online with 1-hour pickup. Staples, the best-kept secret in shipping. Ends 12/31. Exclusions apply. Visit staplesconnect.com/shipping for details.
Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information. Subscription required.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same but is 90% cheaper? And you can get it online? Go to 4hims.com/joy. At Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation and discreet shipping if prescribed. You'll love your results. To start your free online visit, go to 4hims.com/joy. That's FORHIMS.com/JOY.
I bet you folks are glad to be done with your shopping. Hopefully, all your gifts went well. But there's one last store to visit, this time just for yourself. Your chance to get one of the top-rated Samsung, LG, or Sony TVs at a crazy low price. Where? At Video Only's year-end clearance sale. A great way to end the year. If you don't check out these deals at Video Only, you'll be sorry.
If you own a business, this has been a bumpy ride. From pandemic to inflation, I'm sure you could use a break. If your business has 5 or more employees and survived COVID, you might be eligible to receive a payroll tax refund of up to $26,000 per employee. To challenge